Garrett Smith, the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And we are here today for episode 141 of the Love Your Liver live stream. I just got back from a little trip to Colorado. Had a great time there, talking to some people and meeting some new people and setting up fun new things for the future. For those of you who aren't aware, all of our links, nutritiondetective.com and the Madness of Modern Nutrition course and all that stuff is down in the information below. I'm going to be adding some more stuff to the information down below, like the EMF solution stuff, where that's great, and like the breathing stuff from Rome. And I'll be putting stuff down there so you can find it easily for the future episodes. Anyway, and hello to everyone in the chat. That's where we're going to be doing the Q&A. Many of you are familiar with our Q&As. What we're going to be doing is, if you have a super chat, which means you make a little donation to the channel, then your question goes to the top of the list. But otherwise, I just start at the chats and the questions and I go down. First, and don't forget to like and subscribe. That's if you want to talk in the live chat, you need to be a channel subscriber. So that's one thing you can do. But also, if you're in the live chat, it really helps if you X out of the chat and you go and you like the video, because this tells, the YouTube algos to help other people to find this information that they so desperately could probably use. Some of them may not be able to grok it, but, once they see it enough times, then maybe they'll come around. So, I need to put Kelsey's store and her Etsy store, which is Terranean Treasures. Joe, I think you have that link. Otherwise, anyway, we can put it down below there so you all have it too. So let's get into it. I have some testimonials to go over first. Let me share my screen for that. We forgot to do that, Joe. Let's share this Brave tab. There we go. Don't worry about showing it yet, Joe. There we go. We're signed in. Okay. So, yeah, John, we just got started. We're a little late this morning. I was behind getting ready. I had to post on. Let me just say why I was a little late. I was on Twitter this morning and I posted there's a new diet approach out there called Ozempic. So some of you may be familiar with Ozempic, which is semaglutide, which is basically, they call it a GLP-1 agonist. Really what it's doing, it's a pharma cartel poison that is slowing down your digestion. So this is Ozempic. This is not Ozempic. So Ozempic is a pharma cartel poison that is slow. People are using it. It used to be a diabetes drug. And if you've noticed the ads on it, they're like, and it might help you with weight loss. And now you've got everybody out there who wants cheap and easy and dangerous weight loss, getting injections of this stuff. They're starting to make it oral. And really what it does is it slows down your digestion. So you feel full for longer. Like you have food basically rotting in your stomach. It's the exact opposite thing you want to do for digestion. And people just eat less. I knew a woman who was getting those injections, and so we talk about toxic bowel theory, and if you had food in your stomach that wasn't moving forward, right, your body might, in its wisdom, decide to throw it up. Well, I knew a woman who had done those injections. She stopped them for a while. She restarted them, and she was throwing up 1 to 2 times a day for the first week she was back on it. So that's a good way to lose. Not a good way. That is one way to lose weight, would be vomiting. Diarrhea is another one. We don't really want to do these, and you don't want to slow down your digestion so food putrefies and rots in your gut. And then what people are finding is when they stop doing it, they go back exactly to their same old eating habits, probably worse. And now they're even more toxic, because if you slow down your digestion, you're going to have all sorts of problems with toxic bile and your gut microbiome and all that stuff. So anyway, the new thing that came out that the mainstream is demonizing is a diet that is getting popular. It's getting some ground on TikTok, which, I mean, it's TikTok, right? But it's called Ozempic. And it's basically people they're making overnight oats, basically, rolled oats. It's like a half a cup of oats and whatever else, water. And then they're putting in a little bit of lime juice, and they're drinking it, and it's helping them to feel full. Well, those of you who are in the Love Your Liver world understand that oats are a very good source of soluble fiber. They're also one of the highest sources of beta-glucan, which, if you want to see the research, Joe, if you want to post this link, beta-glucan, BETAGLUCAN.org. Let me pull this up. Let me go to it, beta-glucan.org. So if you want to show this, I can't see what you're showing on me right now, but let me see if we're looking at it. Yeah, we're looking at it. Okay, so they had to. There's so much research. So beta-glucan is a soluble fiber. It may actually penetrate into the blood. There is research on this, and if anybody sees that I'm kind of turning pinkish or red, that's because I'm drinking my flush niacin, as I often do during the show, just to show you that it's not scary. It's not an allergic reaction. But so you see how they have so much research on this that they had to organize it by letters. They have to give the conditions. This is just, A through B is conditions, function, and disease index references. So this is just A, right? A going down here. Just to give you an idea. Abdominal adhesions, abdominal pain, abdominal sepsis, acetaminophen liver toxicity, acute ear infections, acute kidney failure, acute respiratory distress syndrome. This is what retinoic acid can cause. Oh, that's what they said killed people in the coof. And then we go, as an adjuvant. You don't want to worry about an adjuvant. They never put beta-glucan into vaccines. They're saying it boosts your immune response because it's detoxing you. So anyway, so we this is just A's. This is just the research on the A's, right? They got A through B, C through D, E through H, I through P, R through Z. Like, this is crazy stuff. Oh, and they also, they love to do this, the adjuvant thing. Notice how, beta-glucan has health benefits. That's why they've never used it in a vaccine. They did all this research on it, but they never put it in there. It is very powerful. If any of you listening to this decide to go out and try beta-glucan, you better give it respect like you do lactoferrin. It is super powerful. Super powerful. I may eventually make protecting you against aflatoxins, the peanut mold toxins, aging, anti-aging. This is just wild. So anyway, beta-glucan is very high in oats. It's also high in barley. If you've heard me talk about barley is like the black belt of whole grains. It will kick your butt if you are not paying attention to it. Kind of like a white belt going into a karate studio and challenging the black belt. They are going to get their butt whooped most likely. So they need to start learning and not try to jump to the top. But anyway, so back to oats. Very high in soluble fiber. What does soluble fiber do in toxic bile theory? Helps adsorb toxic bile. So it binds to toxic bile so you can help poop it out better. Okay, there's beta-glucan in it, which is one of those soluble fibers that gives it so much of its benefits. The soluble fiber itself is a food. The carbs and the soluble fiber are food for your gut microbiome, particularly your bifidobacteria. Bifidobacteria is often completely decimated by low-carb and keto, high-fat diets. Low-carb, high-fat, that destroys your bifido, makes you putrefactive gut. It means that eventually you won't tolerate carbs or fibers as well because you messed up your gut microbiome. So we help fix that over time. You may not be able to jump right in, but we can fix it over time. The next thing is soluble fibers can be broken down by your gut bacteria. Some of it can be broken down by your gut bacteria into short-chain fatty acids like butyric acid and I think propionic acid and other things like that, which then feed your gut cells, the gut lining cells. And then finally, as many of you know here, soluble fiber, somebody was trying to say that protein gives you a lot of satiety. That's cool. Yes, they were acting like I never talked well about protein. I talk about how people need protein all the time. But the other big benefit of soluble fiber is it gels. Like when you think of making oatmeal and then you let it sit and cool off to room temperature and how it kind of thickens, or like refried beans. You let those cool and they thicken. That is what soluble fiber does. That thickening can give you a lot of satiety because it swells and it takes up more room. And it's doing that through water. So you're not adding calories to it if you're using water. And then this helps you feel full. So those are like some of the biggest benefits of soluble fiber. And people are saying Ozempic, when they did just a half a cup of rolled oats a day with water, it was helping them feel full and to lose weight. Imagine that. Those of you here understand how this works. Now, let's say you tried oats and you didn't get along with them. Then don't eat them. You're not ready for them yet. You don't have to force this. You can find other foods at the beginning that you tolerate better. Not everybody tolerates every food. Not everybody gets along with every food. That's okay. We allow for that in this work. So don't force it. Okay. So let me go back. Joe, you can come off of this. Oh, am I turning red? Yeah. I can feel it. I can feel it in my face. But I want you to know, like, this whole thing was filled with the flush. I'm probably down to like right here. That's about as much as I drank so far. So the flush can come on very quickly and you don't have to drink the whole thing for it to happen. The funny thing about the flush, how it can be variable from day to day. I had the same amount of niacin yesterday morning and I didn't flush at all. So anyway, let's get going. Let's go into the testimonial. So Joe, if you want to show this tab, I'm going to read through this. I don't have my camera up. So let me zoom in a bit. I'm going to go through. Here we go. I'm going to read these testimonials. So we got 4 testimonials to go over today. These are all different people. Is Joe here? Joe New? Not Joe Baker, Joe New. Is Joe in the comments? NEU. Okay, maybe he's not. He's usually here. He may show up later. So Joe, I know, doesn't mind. Joe is always all over Twitter talking about his benefits from this. He'll probably be here later. So let's just go through this. He posted this on Grant's forum. Oh, Zendog. Yes, Zendog. That's how he is on YouTube. Zendog Breath, I think. Anyway. So he posted this on Grant's forum over at ggenereux.blog, ggenereux.blog. Not a forum that I suggest. Joe does good work over there trying to fight the egg cells and the people who are destroying the whole approach to low vitamin A diets. There's a lot of them over there. There are some good people over there. But when you allow a new movement like this to be hijacked by those who can't seem to unwrap their mind from the mainstream, it can get ugly. Sometimes the dumbest people are the loudest. Well, oftentimes the dumbest people are the loudest, and the people are most unwilling to change are the loudest. And if you allow these things to infect and infest a new movement, things go bad. So anyway, here we go. Hi, Grant. I found you and Garrett through Judy Cho in December 2022. An aside, I've done 1 or 2 podcasts with Judy Cho. She's a carnivore person. She kind of goes back and forth on the whole vitamin A toxicity issue, but we did get a lot of word out through her. So let's keep going. I am more confident daily that I had isotretinoin-induced sacroiliitis. We've been through this before. The research is outrageous in terms of this. So if you have sacroiliac problems, you have vitamin A toxicity. Doing so much better now. Thank you. While I was hurt, I binge-watched and read your blog, books, and Garrett's. By March 2023, so let me just give you a quick description of what Joe used to have. Joe used to have to, like, he was in constant pain from sacroiliitis. The only way he could get relief was he would have to stand and hold, like, support his weight on the counter, like to push up against the counter to, like, relieve the pressure on his sacroiliac joint. I think he describes it more here. But anyway, by March 2023, I slept longer than 15-minute intervals a couple times a night. So he was finally sleeping. By May 2023, I slept 9-hour stretches and hung up my walker. So he had a walker. By June 2023, I completed a 19-minute and 29-second mile. By November 2023, I did an 11-minute and 27-second mile nose breathing. It says, look out, Kipchoge. Joe has a great sense of humor. Last month, February 2024, I outran our 5-year-old neighbor in a 40-yard dash twice. 2 weeks ago, I threw a lacrosse ball farther than his 9-year-old athletic brother. 1 week ago, I did a pull-up. This week, I walked over 3 miles per day. Thank you. So, Joe, I don't know if Joe talks about his age in here, but he's we'll say it, he's not a spring chicken, and he was using a walker. He was in so much pain. So you just think about, when you read this, you think about what toxicity may be doing to your life, or share this with others who live in constant pain, and realize that whatever pain they have, they could say, well, this is from an injury I had in high school. That may be the trigger. It's like keying the car. Okay, I've done the Kia car analogy. Let's say you have a car in an ocean town, like a beach town. And somebody comes along, like the car on the outside is not going to start rusting because it's got paint. It's got the original protection layer. But let's say somebody comes along and they key the car through the paint down to the metal. What happens to that metal that is now exposed? It starts rusting. Funny that we talk about iron overload here a lot. But anyway, that rust begins where you damaged it. So the injury is the keying of the paint job. The toxicity is the rust that then settles there and creates the inflammation. I'll put it this way. If you're in Tucson, Arizona, where we don't have much humidity, and you key a car, it doesn't start rusting. So the environment is what creates the inflammation around the trauma. Understand? We're fixing the inflammation, the environment that was causing Joe so much pain. And then you see all this change. Okay. Might he still have problems in his sacroiliac joint? Sure. But maybe it's all toxicity. Okay. I am slowly rebuilding our landscaping business as I improve. I still drill down on yours and Garrett's sites. Tonight, I ran across the last video you did with Garrett on November 4th, 2022. One of your last topics was a caution on lutein, specifically in oats. You avoided them while I went all in. Increasingly confident I had acute retinol and copper poisoning several times in the last 45 years. This last episode hit me in November 2022 when I was 62. So now we have his age. So he's 64-ish. No, not quite 64 yet, but he's about 64. He was about 10 years older than Grant when Grant started this experiment. I'm a skinnier guy than you with similar tastes in endurance training. My first date with my wife was a 60-mile bike ride, I'm guessing, in 1985. We enjoyed a fairly healthy life. We experimented with various diets. Pay attention, folks. In 2010, I started on paleo/keto with 1 meal a day. So we got intermittent fasting, paleo, and keto. Some people will be like, oh my gosh, this is the most perfect diet for humans. Okay, let's watch what happens. I have followed the Weston Price paradigm since 1993. The last 3 years before my November 2022 crash, I focused on nose to tail and studied up to try carnivore. Boy, it sounds like he's hitting all the buttons, right? But he didn't end up good. When I first talked with Garrett in December 2022, I gathered my priorities needed to be a return to carbohydrates and reduced fat intake. Garrett, and so we don't do low fat, we do minimal added fats for most people. Joe is skinny. Joe may need more fat than, he's an undertype. He may need more fat than an overtype, more towards overweight people. Okay, we allow for these differences in different states of health. Please don't ever call this diet low fat. We are not doing low fat. If you're eating beef, you're not on a low fat diet. I don't care how lean the beef is. Okay, it's not going to fall in the low fat category generally. We don't like added fats. And if you think of the whole PUFA thing, nearly all the PUFAs that are problems are from added industrially processed fats. Okay? So Garrett pointed me towards slowly starting in on zinc, magnesium, soluble fiber, and activated charcoal. That sounds like me. My first carbs were apples, then prunes and dates. It felt like a big risk to start oatmeal. I chose gluten-free organic rolled oats because I started paleo in 2010 to avoid problems I had noted with grains, especially wheat. Eventually, I cooked my oats with charcoal. So from June 2023 until now, March 27th, 2024, my mostly organic daily diet is 2.5 cups rolled oats cooked with 1 heaping tablespoon charcoal, 1 heaping tablespoon salt, 9 cups of water. Okay. Oh, sorry. Then so that was just the first thing. 1 to 2 pounds of grass-finished beef, 2 apples, 2 to 15 dates, 2 to 6 prunes, occasional green kiwi. These 2 things are to help with pooping. And green kiwis, we've had people in the Love Your Liver program go through, they've tried to look up all the vitamin A information on green kiwi, and they can hardly find any carotenoids. There's no retinoids. There's no retinol or anything like that because it's a plant-based thing. They can't find much beta carotene at all. So green kiwis don't seem to have much in the way of vitamin A. Now, people will say they're high in oxalates. The skin of kiwis is one of the highest sources of oxalates in plant foods known to man. Don't eat the skin. Peel the skin off. If you have oxalate problems and you don't tolerate kiwi, then don't eat kiwi. Okay? But there's oxalates in oats and there's oxalates in kiwi. And let's see here. Joe seems to be improving quite well. Water to taste. As far as supplements, I take 1 scoop of sun fiber. Joe, if you want to post the link to sun fiber, our organic sun fiber, you can. And 1 heaping tablespoon charcoal in water. Nicotinic acid, that's flush niacin, right? Here we go. I feel like I'm a lot less red already. Although I'm looking at my elbow and I can see my elbow pit is red. Anyway, nicotinic acid buffered with magnesium carbonate / potassium bicarbonate in water. I'm going to talk about this in 1 second. 1 mineral capsule with magnesium, selenium, molybdenum, zinc. I'm wondering if Joe is making up his own little version here. These supplements are about 95% less than what I took before I found you. Again, thank you. So let's go over that. Most of your supplements are garbage. They're making you sicker. Even if they help your symptoms in the beginning, they're probably making you sicker long term. You need the right minerals. You need more flush niacin, nicotinic acid, not nicotinamide, not niacinamide, not anything else other than flush niacin or nicotinic acid. Now, let's talk about buffering for those of you who are in the Love Your Liver program or who are thinking about getting into the Love Your Liver program. You need to know first, I need to say this because people keep making this mistake. When we talk about buffering, when Kelsey brought this up and posted it in the articles in the Love Your Liver network, people are not comprehending what was written. You can't just taking a mineral with your niacin does not automatically buffer it. The buffering minerals are listed in the articles. It is magnesium carbonate or potassium bicarbonate or sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, or magnesium oxide, or magnesium hydroxide, which is also known as milk of magnesia. Notice I said or. Some people are asking me if you have to use all the buffers. No. Now, Joe is a smart guy, and Joe is combining. He's taking 2 buffers, getting the right amount of each, which does not mean you're not doing the whole dose of mag carbonate. You're not doing the whole dose of potassium bicarbonate. You are mixing and matching them together, right? You're not double buffering. This is I don't understand how people are misconstruing this in the articles. It's fairly well written. It's clear. You cannot let me just say this. You cannot buffer flush niacin. You cannot buffer nicotinic acid with potassium chloride. You cannot buffer it with sodium chloride. You cannot buffer it with magnesium chloride. Stop doing that. Read the articles again, please. Okay? I don't know how this happened. I'm going to go and do some of my wordsmithing to it so people Don't make this mistake anymore. Okay. Yeah, Mathey, are people actually doing that? Yes. They're wondering if they have to add like all 5 of the buffers to the nicotinic acid. Yes, they are. I don't know how this is happening, but it's happening. And then people are buffering, trying to buffer with magnesium chloride or potassium chloride or whatever. And no, that doesn't work. And as Joe was saying, 95% less supplements than you took before me. Just because I mentioned a supplement like beta-glucan, are there going to be people who just saw me mention beta-glucan and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, another supplement I can take? Yes, they're absolutely going to do that. And they're going to come back and they're going to be like, well, Dr. Smith, the beta-glucan, I took it and it kicked my ass. Yes, I already said that. People who, there are supplement addiction is very, very real. Look at Joe right here. These supplements are 95% less than what I took before I found you. I've had people come to me on 3 pages worth of supplement ingredients. So they took all their supplements, they listed out all the ingredients in them. It was 3 pages of a single line spreadsheet. Do you think humans need that to live? No, you don't. We talk about 6 minerals here. Six. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, zinc, selenium, molybdenum. We're getting people better. We don't talk about bioflavonoids like quercetin. We don't take vitamin D rat poison. We don't take vitamin A poison of poisons. Like, we don't. Stop. You're wasting your money. The people with that 3 pages of supplements, I got them down to 1 page the first day by simply saying, if a supplement you're taking is not helping the issue you took it for, stop it. If you've been taking a supplement so long that you don't even remember why you're taking it anymore, stop it. If a supplement is actually making you feel worse, stop it. I got her down from 3 pages. It was her and her husband, 3 pages to 1 page. And you want to know what they did the next month? They took a vacation with the money they saved. And they got better. So let's keep going. Yeah, spend your money on good food before you spend it on supplements. Like if you're going, I can't afford organic food because you're spending $500 a month on stupid supplements, or you're going to a functional medicine practitioner who's putting you on like, you know, it costs you $1,000 to escape your functional medicine practitioner's office, and then they're trying to put you on $300 to $500 of garbage supplements a month. Run away, buy better food. And then worry about maybe adding some nutrition detective supplements, which we only make 5 products. And if we start making more products, they're just going to be variations and of theme. Like different, like we might have a liquid zinc and we'll have a pill zinc and we'll have a liquid selenium and a pill selenium. But just because we have all those supplements doesn't mean everybody takes all of them. Okay. So continue with Joe. I think the main differences in our approaches, he's talking about his and Grant, besides that I had coaches, is that I was 10 years older at my start. Your beans and rice to my oats and fruit. And each one of them may have tolerated these better than the other. This is why we allow for this. And I ate more charcoal. I am trying to grok. If you don't know what grok means, that's like to truly understand something internally. I am trying to grok how and why oatmeal has not triggered a detox setback. I don't use the term detox setback. It's not a setback. It's excessive bile dumping. Potentially zinc deficiency. I think some of the people who are doing the meat and beans and rice diet started this whole thing with a significant zinc deficiency, and the amount of zinc they're getting from the meat to get rid of the copper toxicity, to get rid of the vitamin A toxicity, they are not getting they started with a deficiency, and the detox requires more zinc than they were already taking in. And then the meat today is deficient in zinc. They are not going to catch up. So they may be aggravating a zinc deficiency along the way. And then they're blaming the vitamin A detox when in reality, they never tested their zinc. And they're just slowly depleting themselves. Now they may get through it because as you get less toxic, as you have less copper in you, as you have less vitamin A in you, as you have less manganese in you, all these other zinc antagonists, as you have less of them in you, you don't need as much from your food, but you have to travel that whole way before you get there. Okay? So, as an aside, we keep chickens. I ate 1 egg in 2023. Oh, and he lived. Egg cells. I ate plenty of eggs before 2023 when he was not doing so well. I plan to try eggs again once I get our girls' feed depleted in copper and retinol. We need to make our own feed. I want white yolks. Well, there is actually some interesting research. Joe's going to experiment with this. Oh, thank you, Brave16, for the super chat donation. He says, donating to the cause, Dr. Smith. Thanks, man. You are welcome. It seems that chickens start to not lay eggs if their retinol in their diet gets too low. I don't know. I'm not positive of this because animal diets that say they are low in vitamin A may be low in other things. And kind of like with the mice and rat studies where they said they were no vitamin A diets. No, there was plenty of vitamin A. And then there was pork fat. The casein contains either retinol or retinaldehyde or retinoic acid. We're going to be working on proving that via third-party lab testing of the mice and rat diet casein. So then we'll just blow that whole thing out of the water. I want white yolks. I don't know if that'll happen. Anyway, that doesn't mean so if chickens need vitamin A to lay eggs, here's a mind-blowing fact. Chickens are not humans. Whoa. I used to feed our girls with Weston Price in mind. Our dogs too. Now they all get retinol/copper depleting diet. Until we kept chickens, I supplemented choline and inositol. Just remember how bad Joe was. He supplemented choline and inositol, just like the egg cells say. You get choline and vitamin A from it. After we got chickens, I thought I no longer needed it. I enjoyed our steak and eggs most days. First of all, about choline, folks, your body can make it. Your body can make choline. And if you eat beef a lot, there's plenty of choline in beef. The idea that you need to eat eggs for choline is garbage. And if you haven't seen my eggs thread on Twitter showing that as they could directly correlate people's blood choline with eggs, and then there was other research that shows that as the blood choline went up, they had more diseases and they died sooner. Oops. But the egg cells just ignore all of that research. It's not convenient for them. Anyway, after we got chickens, I thought I no longer needed. I enjoyed our steak and eggs most days. I want to find a better carbohydrate source or understand my current source better. I also wonder if charcoal is the key to preventing detox setbacks more so than choline. So remember, he's posting this on Grant's forum where the choline lovers are all hanging out. But again, detox setbacks. If a detox setback was a bile dump, excessive bile dumping, charcoal would help with that, wouldn't it? Those of you who are here and understand this. Any further help is appreciated. Thank you. Joe and I talked. Joe's in the inner circle. Where we that's kind of an inner circle is like another live stream right after this where people can join. It's inside the Love Your Liver network, and I do my videos there. Where people can post as many questions as they want. So if you're here and you want more questions answered and you'd like my fully uncensored answers, because you know YouTube, that's the inner circle inside the Love Your Liver program. It's yeah, we do it right after this. This is a new testimonial. Okay, this is testimonial number 2. Wanted to share a massive Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me just set this up. Let me set this up. One of my instructions with sodium intake, salt, what most people call salt, is that you find a clean salt. First of all, you do not buy gray salts. You do not buy pink salts. You do not buy salt with red and blue specks in it. You want sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. The label on it is either going to say salt or sea salt or sodium chloride, and there will be no other ingredients. No potassium iodide, no anti-caking agents, no silicon dioxide, none of that garbage. And yes, if you live in a humid place, the salt may clump. Okay, break it up. Break up the salt. It's not that hard to do. Or put some rice in it and do the rice and the salt thing to soak up the water. Okay, but one of the other suggestions I was doing for people is salt to taste. we have, you know, kind of this natural desire for fats. We have this natural desire for sugar. We have this natural desire for salt. Now, if you think about it, a human in a natural living environment doesn't come across a lot of fat. Anybody who's arguing that animals are all full of fat, I mean, Jiminy Christmas, you ever eaten game meat? Like, it's lean. Then sugar. They'll be like, oh, you can find bees and honey and what? Sure, that's just everywhere you go, right? You just trip over beehives. No, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of pain to get honey out in the wild. And natural fruits are generally not real high in sugar. We have hybridized them to be high in sugar. So even naturally occurring fruits, there wouldn't be that much sugar out there. And then salt, like, where in the world are you going to get tons and tons of salt? So we have these tastes for things, these desires for things, and if we are given free access to them, it is quite possible that we are going to start overdoing them. Because we naturally want to get it. If we were living a natural living diet, or some people might say a paleo-ish thing, if we came across it, we want to use it while it's available. This is why so many people overeat, is because humans are programmed to be on survival mode all the time. Survival mode means if there is food around, you eat it, because you don't know when the food is going to not be there. So you better, make hay while the sun is shining, as they say. You better eat while the food's around. Well, the problem is we got food around all the time now. So if you have salt around all the time, is it possible you're going to oversalt? Yes. If you got fat around all the time, is it probable that you're going to eat too much fat? Probably. If you got sugar around all the time, is it probable you're going to eat too much sugar? Yeah. Just think about this. I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm saying humans have a propensity to eat too much fat, to eat too much sugar, to potentially salt their food too much. I'm running into the too much salt thing over and over and over again. I'm not a low salt guy, but I'm also saying that you can overdo salt. You can overdo water. You can underdo water. So let's go over this now. Wanted to share a massive improvement that I've made over the last month. I had generally been improving, but was noticing that I would still too frequently have days when I had unexplained crushing fatigue. It was unexplained because I had been so strict and disciplined about my diet and logging of reactions. So this is good. This is a really good start. Celtic salt is not okay. Celtic salt is gray. If a salt is not white, we do not eat it. I could not take any supplements without a bad reaction, and I have seemingly random days where I'd require a nap to continue functioning. So some people might be looking, oh my gosh, it's the vitamin A detox diet. Oh my God. Watch what this gentleman does. Last month, I took a follow-up. CMP means Comprehensive Metabolic Panel. You can think of it as like the liver and kidney panel. Okay, this is where they do the liver enzymes and they'll do the kidney tests and stuff like that. I took a follow-up CMP blood panel from 5 months prior and realized that despite making a bunch of changes, my kidney function was continuing to decline. After reviewing all of my notes and logs, I still couldn't think of what could be causing it. And I started getting nervous because my diet had been reduced to basically just chicken and rice with beans sometimes. Here's detective work. Like this is what we teach people how to do. I didn't teach him to do this. He probably just heard me talk about too much salt, and then he thought, I'm guessing either he thought of this or he heard me talking about too much salt recently and he decided to do this. I have never measured salt, and because I wasn't taking supplements, definitely was not balancing it with potassium other than beans and some bananas. Then one day I decided to try out putting the amount of salt I'd normally put on my food in the pan into an empty pan instead, then measure it. It turned out that I was mindlessly consuming 2,500 milligrams of sodium per meal. 7,500 milligrams of sodium a day, assuming 3 meals a day. It was the only thing that I was not measuring and tracking in my diet. That's a lot of sodium, folks. So could it cause problems? Could drinking too much water cause problems? Yes. Do you need water? Yes. Could eating too much salt cause problems? Yes. Do we need salt? Yes. I had tried potassium supplements in the past and they didn't work because I would only take a few hundred milligrams a day. Have you ever heard me talk about this problem? People take 1 or 2 99 milligram pills of potassium. They wonder why it doesn't do anything. And that was nowhere near balanced with 7,500 plus milligrams of sodium per day. Since I realized this, I have been measuring the salt and keeping it to about 400 to 800 milligrams of sodium per meal and taking about 400 to 800 milligrams potassium with each meal. Things have drastically improved to the point where the daily feeling of mental fog and being drained have completely vanished. Gosh, I guess it wasn't the low vitamin A diet, was it? So this is I want to say this is brilliant detective work right here. So if I seem like I'm mocking it at times, this is I'm doing that for the haters. I'm mocking the haters. Like, there are so many variables here. This is why we don't want people who just want a magic pill. Don't send people to us who are lazy, who don't want to learn about their own health, who want a magic pill, or who are like completely anti-supplement or anti-watching what they do to see how they feel. This gentleman did amazing work. Once I was able to stabilize myself with less salt, notice it's not no salt, not as in zero salt. I was able to tolerate basically all supplements I wanted to take. I am taking potassium/magnesium citrate, topical magnesium, and Keystone Minerals. If you don't know, that's my supplement. You can find it on the store. It's selenium and molybdenum and zinc. There is a tiny bit of magnesium in it, but just so you guys know, the Keystone Minerals magnesium is there to fill up the capsule. It's not don't think of it as a magnesium supplement. That's why this person listening to the instructions is doing topical magnesium, like our magnesium lotion, and Keystone Minerals, because the Keystone Minerals does not cover your magnesium needs. I say this because I'm frustrated that people see it in there and they're like, oh, 60 milligrams of magnesium. That's great. It's my magnesium supplement. No, it's not. So we're working on getting the Keystone Minerals back as soon as possible. We're out of it right now, but we're working on it. And we're doing a little bit of a reformulation too. I started taking the Keystone Minerals again, and this time I am feeling significant benefits, one of which is it seems to be helping with my body temperature, something I've struggled with badly in the past. And he didn't even have to go Pete and drink Mexican Coke and take methylene blue and do all, oh my goodness, drink milk with sugar added. Imagine that. It's funny, just today, after I figured all this out, I was randomly listening to Livestream 31 while driving, and Dr. Smith says, most likely if you can't take supplements, it's because you have some toxicity your body is dealing with. Turned out mine was salt/sodium. I've also gotten a much better view of other things that were making me feel bad, but this time I was able to connect it to specific foods, which is what I was originally trying to do. So he cleared the picture by taking out too much of something. For me, I don't seem to do well on more than 4+ ounces of beef in a meal. That's a quarter pound. Lactoferrin, and more than 2 ounces of beans in a meal. Too much fruit makes me freezing cold, but it doesn't destroy me like the others do if I do too much. I attribute these limitations to too much bile dumping that needs to be filtered by my kidneys. Going back to my original issue, I think I injured my kidneys with the salt problem, and since it is still recovering, I can't handle all the bile on top of everything else. As I avoid these and allow it to recover, I expect it to improve over time, and I'll eventually be able to tolerate these things. I agree. He's still going. Overall, the main reason I write this is to caution people to be aware of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. This program can be light on the taste sometimes, yes. So it can be tempting to oversalt your food. I think I was doing that well before this program anyway, but just something to be aware of, or at least do a better job than I did of balancing with potassium. Also, Dr. Smith is 1000% correct about starting with potassium as a supplement. It really does seem to be the core mineral that can be depleted either by salt or the other things that he mentioned, like vitamin A and copper and vitamin D supplements, especially if you are oversalting or not maintaining a cognizant ratio. He is also 1000% correct about fiber. He means you can do too much and cause too much bile dumping, I believe. I ignored both of these, not purposely, it just didn't click for me. This is why I repeat these things over and over and over and over. for much too long, and it cost me a lot of recovery time. Go slow with fiber and figure out what works for you. This is brilliant. This man did a brilliant job, and I hope you all listened very carefully here. So that I want you to see that these testimonials are telling you, and I'm not trying to be like egotistical here. They're telling you that I'm right. They're just saying that what I've seen, I see these patterns in real people. Part of me doesn't care. Like, you guys see how much research I post. I like the research. And part of me doesn't care about the research, because you and I are individual people, and the research, sometimes I joke that the research shows what happens to 51% or more of the people who do something. Like, it's just the majority. What if you're not the majority in terms of your biochemistry? And you try to follow the research, even though your body doesn't react the way that you're supposed to. Let me remind you, the fiber studies where they're all like, fiber is great. You need more fiber. More fiber is so beneficial. Do you know that they kicked the people out of the studies who reacted negatively to the fiber? They kicked them out. So are you going to get a true picture? Like, you always have to look at studies and see who they kicked out. If they kick out all of the chronic disease people, which is most of America, then you're going to get a horribly tainted view of the results of that study. Who am I dealing with? The chronic disease people of America and the world. So can I just go by the research where they're kicking out all the people who don't tolerate fiber? But do I also say some people do, as this person's saying, pay attention to the fiber thing? The biggest mistake everybody makes when they start this program is they do too much fiber too quick. He said I'm 1,000% correct on that. So this gentleman was able to fix his supplement intolerance, his crushing fatigue. He was able to clear up the picture so he could then notice which foods made him feel better or worse, all by not overdoing salt. If you have no idea how much salt you're adding, you need to figure it out. And don't add salt while you're cooking. Don't add salt to the cooking food. Add it afterwards. You will taste it better that way. And realize that when food is hot, you don't taste the salt as much, so you'll tend to oversalt. So those two things, don't add salt while you're cooking, add it afterwards. I don't care what the chefs do. Chefs are not about your health. Chefs are about making food taste the best way. What will get people to eat their food more? More salt. And then, don't use colored salts. No pink, no gray, no nothing. You do not need, remember, if a salt has all the minerals, it has all the toxic minerals by definition. We talk about 6 minerals. 6 minerals. One of them sodium. So if a trace mineral supplement or a salt is saying we have 72 minerals or 84 minerals, if we're fixing people only looking at 6, what do you think all the rest of those minerals are doing in all those sick people who aren't getting better? Even on the trace elements hair analysis thing, I think in the what they call the nutritional elements, which I don't even believe that most of these are nutritional, they've got, I think, 32 or 33 or 34 minerals in the nutritional elements, as in things they say you need, which I disagree with them on a lot of it. But still, 72 minus 34 leaves 38 minerals that are probably toxic and completely unnecessary. And you're out there letting influencers tell you that you need all these minerals, which includes mercury and cadmium and lead and arsenic. Those would be in those 72 minerals. Uranium. So let's keep going. These last two are shorter. This is the third testimonial. Charcoal poultices. I do full torso wraps, have allowed me to finally be able to take all the minerals. Wow, so now we have another solution where people are able to tolerate something better and slowly go up. I am still not able to take lactoferrin, but I am tolerating nicotinic acid. This is flesh niacin by doing wraps both day and night. Gotten up to 100 milligrams of nicotinic acid, and bile flow and BMs, that's bowel movements, that's pooping, have improved too much. It's a pain, but it was the missing piece for me. Let me cover some things here. My BMs have improved too much. It's a pain, but it was the missing piece for me. I had a woman come to me once. This was before the whole vitamin A thing, but I started doing things to help her health and that stuff. And she came back and she was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep coming back because like, I don't like what it's doing to my pooping. And I was like, what's it doing? She's like, well, I used to only poop once a day and now I'm pooping 3 times a day and I don't like it. I don't like having to clean up that much. And I'm like, you're supposed to poop once for each meal. That would be perfect digestion. Perfect digestion would be you eat, you poop like a baby. So if you eat twice a day, 2 meals a day, you poop twice a day. If you eat 3 meals a day, you poop 3 times a day. That would be perfect digestion. I'm not saying that you have to force that. But as you start to get healthier, you should move towards that. If you're pooping once every 3 days, that's not good. Modern medicine's definition of proper pooping is abysmal. Let's see. Let me. I won't go look it up. Somebody go look up like the conventional definition of constipation, like the current definition of constipation, and post it in the chat, if you will. Okay, she's still not able to take lactoferrin. That's okay. If you guys watched the lactoferrin show I just did, like last time or the time before, lots of people can't take lactoferrin because it's like black belt. You just don't tolerate it yet. She's tried it. It dumps too much bile for her, but she is tolerating flush niacin. And also, how's she tolerating the supplements and the flush niacin? She's doing charcoal to soak up the toxic bile that she's increasing the production of. So she's pooping better. That's more bile in her intestines. That's where you want it. But she also needs to soak it up. She's found that topical charcoal works better. Joe, why don't you post that link in the Telegram and I'll put that up. Okay. So let's keep going. But and this is another thing for those of you out there, lactoferrin and nicotinic acid, sometimes people do a lot better on one of them versus the other one. They seem to be connected. And Joe actually just sent me a message today about how he tried doing some lactoferrin, I think adding some lactoferrin on top of his nicotinic acid, and it was just too much. And that's okay. They seem to, I mean, as Kelsey showed me that niacin, nicotinic acid, is a cofactor for lactoferrin. So some people might do better taking the whole lactoferrin itself with the nicotinic acid. And Kelsey gave me her theory that because we use the lactoferrin from fresh milk and they're not heating it, her theory was that the niacin that is normally in lactoferrin in ours is more present. It's not getting knocked off with the heat treatments or getting the lactoferrin from the whey from cheese making. So there's a lot more processing to it. One of her theories was that our lactoferrin is stronger or more potent because it still has the nicotinic acid bound. So this is how we can explain that they may do the same things, but different people may tolerate them differently. And that's okay. I got a lot of niacin in here, and I'm going to take my two pills of our lactoferrin today too. And I'm an overtype. I can do it. And I've also been doing this for 5.5 years. If you're starting it and you're 3 months in and you're kicking your own ass by doing too much soluble fiber and pounding too much lactoferrin and pounding too much nicotinic acid, and you're wondering, why do I not feel better on this? You're kicking your own ass. Listen to the testimonials. Stop kicking your own ass. It will work if you figure it out and you don't kick your own ass at the start. Like, think of how many people go to the karate analogy. How many people go to karate the first day and they try too hard and they try to, their ego is too big. And then the people who are there have to put them in their place. And so they kind of get their ass kicked. Don't be the white belt going in there trying to prove yourself, or you're going to get your ass kicked. It makes sense in karate. It makes sense here. Don't kick your own ass with the toxins you've got stored in your liver and your body fat. Okay, let's keep going. My family and most in our community has had several bad colds and flus the last few months, and I can feel the bile building up and the ear wetness / itching. I know all about this. Like I'm going to get it too, but using the charcoal wraps has kept it from developing. Oh, wait, is this backing up our theory that colds and flus are just toxic bile dumps? She's able to not get sick like everybody else is by soaking up the toxic bile that is what causes colds and flus. Also, when starting something or going up in dose, I swear by using Dr. Smith's 7-week formula. First week, Monday. Second week, Monday and Friday. I'm going to explain this to you guys. This is the slow way of adding something. And what she means here is week 1, if you're trying a new pill of something, let's say somebody was trying, I don't know, selenium. They're trying a selenium pill. Okay. Week 1, they're going to take 1 pill of selenium only on Monday. You're going to pay attention to how you feel, especially that day. Then the next time would be to watch it up for the 3 days afterwards. And then you're just giving it the full week to just make sure that 1 pill, to see your reaction to 1 pill cleanly. Week 2, they're going to do 1 pill twice in the second week. So it might be Monday and Thursday. She wrote down Monday and Friday. Either way. Week 3, you're going to do 1 pill 3 days that week. So maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Thursday is the 4th week is going to be 1 pill 4 days of that week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Or something like that. She put Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It's just the idea of spreading it out and seeing what your body's tolerance is, okay? Week 6, you're going to do 1 pill 6 times a day, so you skip a day that week. And then week 7, you do 1 pill every day. This allows you to see if something is building up on you that is making you not feel good. So if you do like 1 pill 3 days a week and you're fine, and you go up to 1 pill 4 days a week, and all of a sudden you start getting something kind of creeps up and you're like, what's that? Then you can see it coming. This is why this is one way that people can test things, especially sensitive people, which I get a lot of. Some people are just genetically sensitive, and some people are sensitive because they are toxic. Notice how autistics are really sensitive to things. Often they can be hyposensitive, not sensitive much at all, or hypersensitive. This is toxicity. Autism is toxicity. Could be from before they were born. Could have happened to them later, like, I don't know, pokies. Other toxicity. The ear wetness and itching, I've talked about this before. This is a symptom I get. I don't get it hardly at all anymore. I hardly make any earwax anymore at all. I used to make lots of earwax. The ear wetness or itching it's like bile coming out of your ear. So anyway, let's go to the 4th testimonial and then we'll get to questions. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for telling me about progesterone toxicity. I've read enough of the articles to be mortified. Oh, how I've been misled by holistic practitioners much of my life. I already called in a lower dose bioprogesterone. Holy shnikes. Grateful I asked, and you were a detective and patient. Thank you. P.S. I have many of the toxic symptoms listed. Let me find this. Oh, Will's talking about the highlighter color that he's pulling out of his ears in the earwax. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. Okay. So I'll post this in the chat. So this is my old forum, my research forum, nutritionrestored.com/blog-forum. If you want to come here, you can just search for any topic I may have written about. This is my search on progesterone. I know not all the links in this article are still live, but as you can see, people are figuring, it's benefiting people. Any hormone that you take, hormones are fat soluble, right? Well, they are. If you don't know this, they are. Does this mean you can store them in fat tissues and potentially your liver? Yes. When these alternative doctors are giving people these mega doses of like 150 milligrams, 200 milligrams a day in a pill of progesterone, if you're doing this, you are heading towards toxicity. And if you're a man, like if you're doing a repeat thing and you're taking Progest-E and you're taking progesterone as a man, boy, you're in for a rough ride. It may help your symptoms at the start, but it's going to build up on you and it's going to be a bad time. Progesterone toxicity is legit and nobody talks about it. So, let me just do the normal thing. I want to see how many posts I have on this forum. Oh, not that. I didn't want to do that. Go back. Let me just go to the main forum because I think I have. Let me see if it says how many posts we have on here. Now, I think I have like 400 something posts on here. And most of these were written about probably 4 years ago. So things may have changed a little bit since then. But yeah. So let's get into the questions. I think I saw, was it Ramon? I think I saw Ramon have a question. Let me get out of this. But yeah, so nutritionrestored.com. This is the normal blog. I used to call it my blog forum. Just so you know, why did I do it this way? I'm saying this to help anybody out there who wants to post stuff to the internet. For some reason, my brain, my thoughts, I did not want to post blogs. Blogs felt much too permanent to me. And I wasn't, as anybody who's followed me for a while knows that I am open to changing my mind. Well, I used to post on forums a lot. And I had no problem posting whatever I wanted on a forum, which is a pretty dangerous thing for a lot of people out there who are not too bright, that they can go and post anything they want on a forum anytime they want. That's one of the drawbacks of the internet, is that everybody can post whatever garbage thoughts they have. But anyway, so I decided to do this research forum, and I just did it in a forum where pretty much only I was pushing. I was the only one posting, I should say. And it worked great. I had like 400, 500 posts. I did most of my posts on here back when I was still very vitamin A toxic, and I was waking up at about 2 or 3 a.m. and I couldn't get back to sleep. And so I started, I would wake up and I'd just be like, well, I'm not going back to sleep. So I just wake up and post for like 3 or 4 hours until 6 a.m. when I had to start getting ready for work. So yes, a lot of this was driven by the insomnia of vitamin A toxicity and my not wanting to post a blog. So I did my own forum. So anyway. Okay. Let's do the super chat. So let me go into here. Let me pull up my... So Joe, we're moving off of this. Let me get in here. Okay. So we got Ramon. Thank you, Ramon. Ramon is a regular super chatter. How can I tell whether my organic apples have Bill Gates' new appeal coating, since by being organic, companies are not obligated to disclose it? Thank you. I don't know. I was chatting with Kelsey about this, and I mean, okay. Okay. Now, this is going to sound weird, but Kelsey and I were talking about this appeal. It is, as it says, it is mono and diglycerides. Let me see if I can find this. You guys know of all people, I am not a fan. Why isn't this finding and searching? It's supposed to. Ugh. Appeal is made of mono and diglycerides. Well, a lipid, a monoglyceride is a lipid or an ester of glycerol and one fatty acid. When you look at when people are eating fat, those are typically triglycerides. Okay, 3 fatty acids bound to one glycerol backbone. So you've got so if this is the backbone, right? My hand is the backbone. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. A monoglyceride. So they're saying they're generally considered safe. You should limit your intake. They're commonly found in processed foods. Okay, so, but what Kelsey and I were getting at was that people may be freaking out over the appeal thing more than they need to. You guys know, I mean, if you haven't seen let me go find my Bill Gates thread, just so nobody here is like, Dr. Smith likes Bill Gates. No, don't do that. Don't do something that dumb. Let me go. I'm gonna have to go do my search on Twitter itself. Let me share this. Okay. I just posted this Twitter thread on Bill Gates and vitamin A. I'm not a fan of Bill Gates, but also he's an investor. And let's just say Bill Gates saw an opportunity for this appeal, and he was like, gosh, they're going to be able to put it on all the apples. I can make tons of, does anybody actually think that Bill Gates is the mastermind behind all of his stuff? Or do you think there are puppet masters behind him telling him what to do? I mean, look at the guy or guy. Anyway, it may not be as bad as we think. And you could always peel the apples. You can if you are ever concerned about anything on the outside of apples, just peel them. I'm going to say that the apple peel is probably patent enough, like sealed up enough that it's not going to let fats penetrate into it, okay? They're specifically putting it on the outside as a coating. You should wash your apples if they're organic or not. But if you want it gone, then just peel them. Wait, Mathey, what do you mean banned? If you're, appeal your appeal apples. Yeah, right. Well, we'll just do that. So just know, you can get around it. You don't have to be scared off of apples. First of all, no, you shouldn't be eating canned, a store-bought applesauce. Don't eat store-bought applesauce. I don't, even if it's organic, because when they put it into the jars, especially not applesauce that's in a plastic container, but when they put it in the jars, even the glass jars, they heat it to pasteurize it, sterilize it, can it. And then that does turn some of the pectin in the sealed jars in the store. It does turn some of that pectin into formaldehyde. If you make fresh applesauce at home, it doesn't do that. It has to be sealed with no air. It has to be sealed with no air in it and then heated. Canning. Don't eat canned applesauce. If you're in a survival situation, just so you guys know, I have so much brown rice stocked away for a survival situation. And it's Lundberg, which I know has a bit of arsenic in it, but we're talking apocalypse kind of stuff. Am I going to be worried about arsenic and other stuff When everybody's starving, no, I'm not going to be worried about arsenic and stuff. Am I going to be worried about Bill Gates' appeal if all I can find is an apple tree? Or I don't know. Am I going to be worried about formaldehyde in applesauce if I just got to eat? No, I'm not worried about that, but that's survival stuff. Context is everything. So, Dupocalypse. Here, no, Dupocalypse. Let me put it in the chat. This is just a word. This is a word I like to use. Apocalypse. And it's just it's a contraction of the or duh and apocalypse. Dupocalypse. So you can put it in the Urban Dictionary. Anyway, but I just like the appeal thing. I wash my apples. I like eating the peel. But I don't eat that many apples. So it's not something I think about too much. But just think, Bill Gates may have just, like, Bill Gates is now part owner of Bragg's, I think. Like, wasn't it Bill Gates and Katy Perry who bought Bragg's? You got to love this. There is nothing harmful about GMO by Bill Gates. Let's see. Well, they're saying here he didn't. Maybe it was just a social media BS thing. They're saying here, somebody said Bill Gates and Katy Perry got into it. But now they're saying the Bragg's apple cider vinegar is being ruined by Katy Perry. Anyway. But apple cider vinegar, potentially, if it's got pectin in it, the stuff they're selling in the stores is going to, I don't know if they heat it or not. Bragg's, I don't think they heat, do they? That would kill the mother, which is yeast, basically. You're eating yeast, which increases your storage of vitamin A in your liver by a lot. I'm beginning to question the health of vinegar more. Acetic acid. I don't think it's terrible, but there's a reason why it's so diluted in vinegar, like down to 5%. And as Kelsey reminded me, glacial acetic acid, which is like pure acetic acid with no water in it, is super toxic. So, oh wait, I didn't go over the constipation thing. Let me get the constipation thing. Go found me the Mayo Clinic definition of constipation. Constipation generally means passing fewer than 3 stools a week or having a difficult time passing stool. Here it is. So the Mayo Clinic says, if you poop 3 times a week, if you poop once every other day, you're not constipated. You're not constipated if you poop 3 times a week. That's what they say. What do I say? Well, first of all, if your health is not good, you may not be pooping anywhere near what I'm about to say. And we're going to work on fixing that, okay? But if you're not healthy, your body's not working right, so you're not going to be having healthy things happening. So as we get you healthier, the healthy things happen, okay? I would like for people to be working on, first we want people pooping once a day. Once a day. That's what I'd like minimum. So if you need to use some of the things, the Love Your Liver approved constipation helpers, we talk about oral magnesium. So don't think you're going to raise your systemic magnesium levels by taking oral magnesium. It just doesn't work very well for 95% of people. Oral magnesium can help you poop. Getting your potassium levels right, your intake right. I wonder if too much salt would tend to cause potassium. tend to cause constipation. I'll have to look that up. Sun fiber. Lots of research on sun fiber helping constipation, even in autistic kids. Prunes, not so much prune juice, but prunes can help. Prune juice can be used if you just can't handle the fiber of prunes. And then the studies show well peeled, 2 green kiwis a day. There's, I think, 3 studies showing that this helps with constipation, and Joe was saying it was helping him too. So those are things that you could use any mix of those to help you poop. You could do one, you could do more than one. But we try to you want to be pooping, because if you're not pooping, you're not getting the bile out through your intestines, which is the best way to get it out. So we can use that to help. It's okay to use things to help you poop, but don't use if you're on Cascara sagrada or Senna or these other herbal laxatives that are habit forming. Magnesium is not habit forming. You can find it all over the internet. Magnesium is not a habit forming laxative, but Cascara sagrada is. Senna is. So that whatever that pooping tea is, the one that everybody talks, Smooth Move. Yeah. I don't know if I finished Ramon's question. Let me go find Ramon's question. Did I finish it? I don't feel like I did. Oh, so that was the appeal question. Okay. So we did get to that. Yeah, just peel your apples. If you can figure out, if you can talk to you could talk to I see Alfreda's got her super chat. I'll get to that in a second, Alfreda. But you could talk to the growers of the apples if you're able to figure out who it is. You could say, do you use a peel on it? You could find out from the apple people themselves. You could ask the grocery store if you're going there. You could say, can you find out if this is used? There might be information on the internet. I'm not going to go look it up right now, but there might be information about something that would wash the mono and diglycerides off of the apples. You might have to use soap to cut the fat, to cut the oil, to emulsify it, to break it apart. Okay. You could always peel the apples. So that's your appealing solution. I don't know that I'm going to say it's totally fine to eat it. Like if you were just like, shoot, I'm just going to eat the appeal. I don't know that I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it may not be as big a deal as people are saying just because Bill Gates makes it. Okay. There's probably other things that you should focus on, but if you can avoid it, that's probably best. I mean, it is best. Okay. But yeah. We want to be poop maxing here. Let me find the next one. I'm just going back down through. So yeah, we got Brave 16. Thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Ramon, we got to Ramon's. And thank you again, Ramon, as usual. Okay, N Rustica says, what's the best way for me to get enough iodine? I work outside in hot weather and sweat a lot. First, I would say, what is the justification for saying that you are, or for thinking that you are iodine deficient? Or as we might say, assuming. I do not think that. So the funny thing is, if we go and look for, let me go and look for iodine food sources best. Okay. So, first of all, I want to emphasize that people who, let's say, I don't know, the original settlers of this country who traveled across the entire U.S. and were not near any oceans for the iodine in the seawater or the iodine in kelp or the iodine that they say is in dairy. They had access to none of that, because you want to know how cows have iodine in their milk? From the iodine that they feed them. I've never seen a cow eating seaweed naturally. So where do the cows get that iodine from? Well, it's from what we feed them. How do cows survive naturally on grasses and other plant matter if there's not a lot of iodine in it? So, oh wow, we got to do all the stuff. We got to just seaweed and fish. So we got seaweed, fish, iodized salt. So look at this. Seaweed, cod. Fish is full of mercury. Don't care where you get it from. It's all got mercury in it. Iodized salt, non-fat milk, right? They feed the cows seaweed or iodine. Greek yogurt, which is just concentrated casein, which is full of vitamin A. Oysters, toxic shellfish, yay. Eggs, yay. Enriched bread, liver. Wow. So look at these foods. As I've said before, toxins of a feather flock together. I believe so here, these are some ideas that I think happen. So, I mean, thinking of what cows eat is a good start to the approach. Cows have gigantic bones, and they put 4 times the amount of calcium into their milk than humans do. But you have to ask yourself, where does that calcium come from in a cow's diet? Right? Because we're told by the Rockefellers that we need to drink milk. We have to drink milk. You basically, if you look at the calcium RDA, you're pretty much not going to get there if you don't drink milk or eat cheese or do dairy. The Rockefellers are huge in the dairy industry. Huge. Boy, isn't that why they started doing research to try to find vitamin A and vitamin D? And those are the main things that they fortify milk with. Weird that the Rockefellers are connected to dairy and potentially poisoning people. So they made the calcium standards for humans to fit the need for humans to suckle from the udders of a different species. So they could make money. They make money on you buying their dairy. They make money on you being sick later. But iodine too, where would cattle naturally get their iodine from? So the reason iodine is in Greek yogurt is because it must accumulate in the casein of dairy products, of the milk. So does vitamin A. Weird coincidence. I think that humans and cows are very, very good at recycling calcium. I think we are very, very good at recycling iodine. It is impossible. Listen to this very carefully. It is impossible to be allergic to iodine because T3 and T4, your thyroid hormones, the reason they call it T3 and T4 is because there are 3 molecules of iodine on T3 and there are 4 molecules of iodine on T4. And if you were allergic to iodine, you'd be allergic to thyroid hormone. Your body would destroy all your thyroid hormone and destroy your thyroid and you'd be dead. When people say they're allergic to iodine, they mean they're allergic to the contrast iodine that they inject in them, which probably has, I don't know, maybe, what do you guess? 30 ingredients, 40 ingredients, 50 ingredients? You know, pharmaceuticals are never one ingredient, especially stuff they IV you with. So, yeah, if you're allergic to contrast and they tell you you're allergic to, if they say you're allergic to shellfish and then they say, because you're allergic to shellfish, you're allergic to iodine, that doesn't make any sense. Shellfish are full of all sorts of poisons. So anyway, if you believe you're allergic to iodine, then keep avoiding it. I'm just saying you'd be allergic to your own thyroid and your thyroid hormone, and you'd probably be dead already. And maybe my explanations make more sense. So, if someone wanted to test, there are countries where they say iodine deficiency is epidemic. Pakistan is one of these countries. Now, I had a longtime client who was familiar with the iodine deficiency of Pakistan. Now, why is that happening? Is it possible that there are certain toxins that these people are being exposed to that is causing the iodine deficiency? Quite possible. So she said, I want to try some iodine, Dr. Smith. What do you think I should do? She said, could I try some iodized salt just to see? And I said, sure. You can try it up to the RDA of iodine, which I think, if I recall correctly off the top of my head, it's 150 micrograms a day. So she did. She did it for, I think, a couple months, and she said she immediately felt better. Okay. She did some iodine, the RDA, and she did it, and she felt better, and she did it for several months. And then you know what she did? She stopped. She said, I feel better. I'm going to stop doing the iodized salt. She stopped it, and she said she felt just fine. And she's maintained that. She refilled her deficiency, and what I'm saying is that humans are likely very, 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 very good at recycling iodine. You do not need to keep putting it in like the Lugol's madness, the iodine crazy people. The iodine crazy people are hurting people with the potassium iodide. Now, if someone, I am not telling anyone to do this. If someone chose to supplement iodine, if I was choosing to supplement iodine, which I don't do, and let me emphasize at the start, I regularly help people fix their thyroid problems, and I never give iodine to Westerners especially. I'm telling you, I never do this. But if I did, in the context of a private client, it would be the RDA of iodine from nascent, 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 a source of nascent iodine. The RDA a day. And if somebody did not feel drastic improvements in 1 week, I would say iodine deficiency is not your problem. Stop. If you don't know about the production of iodine, it is a super toxic material to make iodine, to make it into supplements and to give it to people. Super toxic procedure. So, iodine is not something I found is necessary to use in Westerners. If you go and you look up your country and you're in kind of, more of a, I'm just going to throw it out there. Hopefully people understand this. If you're in more of a, third world country, a less developed country, and you look it up and it says iodine deficiency is epidemic here, you might want to try what I suggested. You could try what I suggested. See if it helps. 1 week. If you have a true iodine deficiency, you should feel it almost immediately. If you're sitting there taking it and you go 1 month and you're like, well, maybe I feel better. Maybe, I don't know. You don't. Stop taking it. When people give me weak answers like maybe, that's usually them just hoping that it worked. Maybe. So the answer is probably a no. Or like when I ask people if you're a sensitive type of person, like sensitive to supplements, sensitive to meds, if I don't get a strong yes, you're probably not sensitive. Very unlikely that you're sensitive, because sensitive people know it. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't take full doses of anything. So, but yeah, sweating more doesn't. Here's a funny thing. Let me relate this to you guys. So I forget their name. Kelsey, you might remember their name. The detoxination people. They write about flush niacin and doing saunas as detox and all this stuff. I want to tell you something that they wrote in their book. Kelsey got their book and shared it with me. They said that, doing the flush niacin and the sauna, well, the cardio and then the sauna, helps you to get rid of fat-soluble toxins, especially through your apocrine sweat glands, which are in your armpits and your groin. And they put out that you can sweat some fatty compounds out through your armpits and your groin. And this is why your armpit sweat and your groin sweat smells different than your normal sweat everywhere else. But they were worried because they're like, well, if you do this a lot, you're sweating out your fat soluble vitamins, and you need to take a vitamin A and D and E and K supplement to replenish them. So I just wanted to make sure. They're saying you sweat out fat soluble toxins through your armpits and your groin, and you sweat out the fat soluble vitamins. Or are they really saying your body is trying to get rid of these fat soluble toxic vitamins in your sweat? Which makes sense. Your body is dumb or your body is smart. And they've just mislabeled toxins as vitamins. Now, I like vitamin K. Don't get me wrong. I don't think everybody needs to take it. I think vitamin K deficiency is mostly a vitamin A toxicity problem. But vitamin K is a quinone. It is not an alcohol, an aldehyde, and an acid like A and D and E. Vitamin K is a different breed. Okay, so let's see. Alfreda says, Giardia count high after stool sample. Where do I go from here? Retest with you. Can I discuss further on office hours? Posted this in the general chat after my donation, trying to figure this out. Well, I would consider there's things that, I mean, I have a family member who had Giardia for quite a long time, and this person knows that when they eat right, all of their Giardia symptoms disappear. Alfreda, this would definitely be a question for office hours because I'd want to go into what you're taking, what you're not taking. There are certain chlorine-related compounds that we might talk about in the office hours that I'm not going to discuss here on YouTube. Yeah. So yeah, doing the meds for Giardia. I mean, everybody's probably experienced the meds for Giardia are like incompetent. They don't work well, and it just comes back. So what we do is we change the environment of the gut over time. Let me just go do a quick search. Let me see if there's any connection to. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I didn't see anything on the quick search I did. For those of you who don't know, office hours, or OH, as Alfreda mentioned, OH is office hours. This is the 6 months of support and troubleshooting that I give each person who works privately in the testing and consultation packages with either myself or Nathan. This is where we fine tune things, where I'm there to, if you think I'm helping people here, imagine if you had, personal access to me for 6 months after we go over your blood tests, your hair tests, we have our consult, and then you get 6 months of access to both myself and Nathan, and soon Hope and Kelsey in our office hours, which is a small group Zoom meeting where you can ask questions about your particular situation. And this is, it is a small group, but that's the only way I can get to all the people who want all this information. So let me answer one thing about Katy Perry. Katy Perry here. But yeah, Alfreda, that's where I would go with that. It's too hard to, it's not, this is not the place to troubleshoot private stuff. Okay, so I'm posting the link here about from Shape Magazine. What the heck is a niacin flushing drink, and why does Katy Perry drink one every morning? So somebody mentioned Katy Perry does coffee enemas too. Are these things, do we think that these things are generally positives? Yes. You must understand that the mainstream has to confuse everybody. What was this? I think it was Stalin, or was it Lenin, who had the saying of the best way to control what's his saying about controlling the opposition? No, the best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. The best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. So the bad guys, they have to put out both sides. What does this do? This confuses the normies. They go, I don't know what to choose. Everybody says this, but Katy Perry's doing this. it confuses everyone. They have to control both sides, but you'll see that the side that is probably better is the side that gets a lot less publicity. And it would also be associated with like starlets who have performances recorded where it looks like their MK Ultra programming is malfunctioning. If you wanted to look up those two terms together, if you want to do a search for like MK Ultra Katy Perry, you'll find some interesting videos where it seems like the program broke for a period of time. So, you know, I'm not terribly... So Katy Perry doing something doesn't mean that it's good or bad. You know, it means that that's her role in it. Okay. So let's see. Was there anything else? Okay. So Will asked, thoughts on DHEA and pregnenolone? Since you mentioned progesterone toxicity, estrogen clogs hepatocytes, maybe a hormone end waste product. Yeah, that's like higher level stuff, Will. That stuff I'm still not... sometimes I wonder if the whole... I don't know what they call hormones. I don't know. When we went over this in the inner circle, I think last week or the week before, when you look at hormones and cholesterol and bile acids and all that stuff, they are so... the structure of them is hardly different. So what they call hormones, I'll put it this way. I'm open to different explanations of the hormone system, kind of like the immune system is a cleanup crew, not so much like an assassin crew. It's more of a cleanup crew, because the bigger problem is toxicity rather than pathogens. So anyway, DHEA and pregnenolone, I used in my past. I've tried DHEA and pregnenolone and they did squat. And that was back, especially when I was into the adrenal fatigue days. You start messing around with hormones. I mean, you always have to remember, hormones are some of the most difficult things for your liver to detox. So if your liver is already under strain and you start taking especially oral hormones, which then hit the first pass liver metabolism, you're adding strain to your already tired and less than optimal functioning liver. So your liver is either going to have to sacrifice processing something else to deal with the hormones, or it just lets the hormones build up possibly in your blood once they get there. And then it's not dealing with those, and as we just went over progesterone toxicity, there are... Never forget this, the law of unintended consequences, where people, let's say, take hormones to help this health issue or to help their libido or to help their drive. And then all of a sudden, the law of unintended consequences says there's going to be downstream effects from this. If hormones are the most powerful thing in our body, imagine, but we always have to add at the end of that, for better or worse. If you are taking the wrong hormone or the wrong amounts of hormones, for better or worse, if it's worse, you get to find out later what that is. So I am very cautious and prudent, and it's funny when I get people, I mean, that person who with the testimonial about progesterone toxicity, she actually thought that she needed the progesterone to help prevent certain symptoms. But when she saw my stuff about progesterone toxicity, she started gradually reducing her progesterone, and she noticed that the symptoms that she used to think the progesterone was helping with, when she took away the progesterone, those problems were actually decreasing. So was it that the progesterone was driving the problem? It's kind of like a caffeine addiction, right? People are like, I need caffeine in the morning for my energy. But over time, they're getting more tired. So they need more coffee and caffeine. You see what that's the duration paradox effect. So in the start, maybe this woman felt like it helped her issues. And the doctor's like, oh, well, let's give you a little more. Let's give you a little more. Let's give you a little more. Doctors push hormones like crazy. But then just like caffeine, right? If you don't have your caffeine, you feel worse over time. You get more tired overall. And then the caffeine is what caused the fatigue. Do you see this? You weren't that tired when you started drinking coffee. You start drinking it all the time, and then eventually you're even more tired. And you must have the coffee to function normally. That's an addiction. What do people on hormones do? They take them and then they start, I feel great. And then later on, they're like, if I don't have my hormones, I'm not normal. Same thing. So if you want to mess with hormones, it seems to be a road that eventually people realize that they don't need, and then they gotta get out of that, and then they may have to detox the hormones themselves. Yeah, and as Will is saying that, yes, this is I'm just going to repeat this so everybody hears it, is taking hormones reduces endogenous production. I want you to think about this, right? So your liver, like you cannot take men or anybody, you cannot take oral testosterone very well, because as soon as that oral testosterone is absorbed in your intestines and it goes right to the liver, it's called first pass metabolism of the liver. Your liver will work its butt off to chop up all of that testosterone, to break it up, to detox it. Why in the world would your liver work so hard to do that? Right? Think about that. If testosterone was such a wonderful thing, would we not assume that your liver would be intelligent enough to say, oh, let this guy go by. This is testosterone. He's cool. He's cool. He's been here before. We like this guy. Let him through. Why does your liver chop it all up? Why then, when they add, 7-alkyl? What's the thing they add to oral steroids? 7-alkylation or something, where they add a group onto the testosterone, so that when it goes through the first pass metabolism of the liver just chops off that extra, whatever the 7-alkyl group, I think it is. I'm just not remembering the exact term. So if I'm wrong on that, sorry about that, but you understand what I mean. If you know steroids, you understand what I mean. And yes, testosterone replacement therapy is steroids. Don't fool yourself. But it chops off that group, so then the testosterone can escape through. So we have to fool the liver and give the liver a distraction molecule to chop off so that the testosterone can make it through. And then it comes back around again. And then the liver is working its butt off to break that down too. Does that make sense? Like, why is testosterone not the liver's friend and buddy that it lets through? That's just one of the things about hormones and bile salts and stuff like that, and bile acids, that it's just confusing to me. And if people can't look at that and go, yeah, that seems weird, I just think they're not very open-minded. Oh, thank you, Will. Will said it made a lot of sense. It's just think about these things. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I like to fix hormones in people by helping them become less toxic, by helping them fix their nutrition, and then with the toxic bile theory, so that their body can fix it. I'm saying something about hormones seems fishy, with especially that first pass metabolism of the liver. Why is your liver breaking down these things all the time? Why is estrogen so damaging to your liver if we need it? Right? Why does your body turn testosterone into estrogen if estrogen is so bad for the liver? It doesn't make sense. Something's not adding up, is what I'm saying. And there will be hormone pushers who will be like, this guy's wrong. And I'm like, you're just pushing hormones. Of course you're going to say I'm wrong. It's like all the organ meat pushers who never put a single reference about organ meats being good for people. And yet I put up tons of research showing that organ meats are full of toxins and cause problems. And everybody's just like, but organ meats, like, they use a fallacy to sell it. They use the appeal to nature fallacy, that just because it's natural, it's better than, if it's natural, it must be good. They sell you on a fallacy and they do no research. And then when I showed them research that like the more organ meats that in Spain, Spanish young men ate, the worse their sperm was. And then yet you got the organ meat pushers on Instagram with Saladino claiming that organ meats, they're selling a blood extract and testicles in pills, a blood extract. They're selling you cow blood. And they're claiming that it helps libido and all this stuff. And I'm like, reference? That will be my post under their stuff. Do you have a single reference? If you consume testicles, the testosterone in it gets broken down very, very quickly. This is known. So anyway. But Will was talking about the hormones, and he said, I may have to cut them and see what happens with my energy, always experimenting. Yes. As you get better, Will, the hope will be, like, let's say as you're going along, and let's say you were taking some of the hormones and you saw your energy improving. So obviously over time, the thing we must remember, right, is over time, if let's say Will added some hormones, let's just say DHEA and pregnenolone, and he's noticing an improvement in his symptoms, right? So if you stay at that same dose, the improvement in symptoms should stay the same, right? It's not like it's going to get bigger and better over time. Does that make sense? So if Will's going along and his energy started at some point to improve, we can assume that that's not from the hormones, right? Because it wouldn't just suddenly start improving at the same dose. We could assume that underneath it all, his toxicity level was decreasing and or his nutrition his overall nutrition was improving, and therefore his energy started improving, and then he could reduce the hormones. This is the approach we have with like thyroid medications. We get you better before you reduce the dose. We don't reduce the dose and make you real tired and then hope that the program's going to catch up. You can use the Band-Aid or the crutch until hopefully you start seeing improvement, and then you can reduce the crutch or eliminate it. It was like a person I talked to this weekend when I was on vacation. She said she had acid reflux. This is not a client. This was somebody at a business I went to. And they started talking to me about what I do. And I was, I'm going to talk about it. She's like, I have acid reflux and all this stuff. And I said, I was talking to her and I said, does the acid reflux like kind of break through the med? Like, does the med keep down the acid reflux completely? And she said, no, absolutely not. And I said, so one of the things that we would do to get you off of that med, we wouldn't yank you off of it right away. You would do the diet, fixing the toxicities, fixing the deficiencies, fixing the toxic leaky bile. And then over time, as you started noticing the acid reflux getting better on its own. So even though you're still on the med, the symptom is improving. You're noticing less breakthroughs. Maybe you don't even have acid reflux anymore while you're on the med. Then it would be time to reduce the med. We don't yank out the crutches. Leave the crutches there until it heals enough. And then you start testing out, can you walk without the crutches? Right? So, but yeah, just think of if you're ever going to mess with hormones, anybody, you're trying the minimal effective dose. MED, minimal effective dose. You want to take the smallest amount that gives you the most benefit. But that doesn't necessarily mean just take more and more, because there's that law of diminishing returns. As you take more and more and more, the benefit gets like teeny. It shrinks over time. You can't just keep taking it. And then just like if somebody started out drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, they're going to quickly hit that wall of where the 10 cups of coffee isn't doing anything anymore. It just makes them normal. Whereas somebody who slowly went up in coffee would get like a longer effect out of it, where they could just go up by a cup at a time, plateau there, and then another cup at a time, and then plateau there. Again, it's still a drug-like effect. That's called tolerance. Tolerance means, by definition, you need more of something to get the same effect over time. You become kind of numb to it. and then you need a bigger dose. That is a drug-like effect. So if you see that happening with anything that you are doing, that is not something we tend to do in the program. What happens in testosterone replacement therapy? The guys feel better. They plateau for a while. Then they start going to their doctor. Doc, I don't feel so good on this dose anymore. And the doctor goes, okay, we're going to bump you up. And they bump them up. And then, Doc, I don't feel so good on this dose anymore. Okay, they bump them up. That's a drug-like effect. This is what happens with hormones. They're down-regulating their internal production. The body is down-regulating the receptors. So you have to hit it harder. It's just like caffeine. It's just the same thing. So, oh man. So let's see. I think we got those. Okay, Aniline, or I want to say your name right. Aniline. Aniline. Thank you for the super chat. We have what to do for liver pain. Zinc, B12, vitamin A tests are high, MTHFR, high alk phos. So we don't necessarily, well, so for those of you who are here, for those of you who are in the chat, if you would please, if you had liver pains in the past, oh, you're welcome, Will. Thank you. I'm glad that helped. If you had liver pain in the past, so like under your right rib cage, right? Like, so if you feel the bottom of your ribs, let me see if I can see my camera. There we are. So, well, like down under your rib cage, under that, where your rib cage meets the soft abdomen, right? Just above that and behind your ribs, there is your liver. Now, if you have a big liver, you could actually feel your liver below the rib cage. You're not supposed to be able to feel your liver below the rib cage, but if you know what different people feel like, you could potentially feel it below the liver. Like the story of the child who was like overdosed by his mother on fish liver oil. The kid's liver was like way below his rib cage in a child. So, but if you got liver pain in the past and you did the Love Your Liver program and you've been doing this stuff that we're doing and now the liver pain is gone, it would be great for you to comment here. That would be great. Okay, so let me hit these things. So zinc, I'm just going to do some basics. Generally, the gist of it. Yeah, okay, so Mathay, so if you thought you had gallbladder pain or you thought you had liver pain, either one, liver pain, gallbladder pain, if you've had it, or just pain in the right, what they call the right, I don't know, lower quadrant. If you've had pain there and if you got better on the program, please feel free to comment in the live chat. If you're here now, if you have it and you want to comment in the chat, in the comments later after this goes, after this is uploaded, then please do. Generally, Aniline, what we do is we just do the program. You just work the program. It just can take a while. So she was saying her diet is soaked oats, lean meat, and peeled apples. Can't do minerals yet except magnesium, probiotics, potassium, gallbladder removed. So you're okay. So are you in the Love Your Liver program? And did I say your name right? I want to say names right. I always want to say names right. Like Mathay. Mathay said the very first time he came on, he was like, it's like ma, and then they, like the word they, THEY. And I was like, oh, thank you for the pronunciation. That's great. That's a pretty good base. Oh, so you're in the Love Your Liver program. Okay, cool. So I just want to make sure you have access to that stuff. So my first question, I don't want to do a lot of troubleshooting here, but like, is this issue improving over time? Like in terms of less frequency, less intensity, any of that stuff? Are you noticing any improvements overall? Like when it happens, is it shorter? Is it less intense? Is there longer times between it? Those are signs that we're going in the right direction. It may not go away right away, but those are signs that we're moving in the right direction. So if you can say anything to that, that would be great. But generally, it would be gallbladder removed. Okay, so for those of you out there who have had your gallbladder removed, this is an important idea. Okay, so Aniline said intensity more lately when eating meat. Okay. So this is like a hint of what we might go over in office hours. If I had somebody in office hours, this is what we're going to do right now, is a hint of what we might do in there. Because the liver pain thing is, when it happens, it's kind of scary, right? So could it be some people just don't get along with, like, if it's red meat, especially, red meat is going to be your higher fat meats. When you don't have a gallbladder, you tend to become much more sensitive to fat intake. So let me explain this real quick about gallbladder stuff. Okay, so when you have a gallbladder, so this is my gallbladder model right here, okay, right? It's a little sac. If you don't know what the gallbladder is, you probably want to go look it up, because it's just so you understand how it sits into this whole thing. So your liver is up here, red meat, low fat. Okay, so it may just be red meat. If you just want to try, like, chicken, whether it's dark meat would be a little fattier, white meat would be less fat, right? Almost no fat. You can try it and just see. So the reason to do that experiment would be to see if the lower fat works. If you tolerate other fats just fine, it could be the type of fat. It could be just be certain things in red meat, like taurine. I talk about taurine. Some people do not tolerate taurine very well in the beginning phases. This could be related to the red meat has the highest amount of taurine of any food. And just so you know, taurine is only in animal meat. It's not in eggs. It's not in dairy. It's not in any of that stuff. So chicken does the same, no skin or fat. Okay, so this would be, okay. We're getting into something here. This would be, I've had people who are, let me look at what you listed as you're eating again. Soaked oats, lean meat, and peeled apples. Can't do minerals yet except magnesium, probiotics, potassium, gallbladder removed. So the big thing about what you may want to do, so your gallbladder, let me back up on the gallbladder thing. So your gallbladder is this little sac. Okay, 3 months in on program, severely underweight. Yes, this may be, well, your liver is at least making bile. It may be going a lot back into your bloodstream as like intrahepatic cholestasis. Severely underweight. Just first off, the thing to remember is you've read the over and under type. Are you an under type? Aniline. I keep saying it both ways because I don't know how to say it. So we have the severely underweight, but we have high vitamin A on the blood test. So this is kind of a mixed. Will said he used to have liver pain quite a bit at the beginning, especially when I played sports. As I got into it, I never have liver pain these days. So we got one. Did I say anything else? Did I see anything else? And Mathey says, I had like a very painful pain and thought it was my gallbladder. Isn't that the same place? Yes. And he said he hasn't had it since he started the Love Your Liver program. Joe says sometimes his liver cramps. Joe, the important thing would then be, is it still happening? Okay, so she says small fiber polyneuropathy. Yes, she's an under type. So, okay. Well, let's just go over your 3 months in. First, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So remember, it's going to take a while. You're okay. So what are the things so you got small fiber polyneuropathy. We have a couple of things going on here. What are the indicators that it's going to take longer than normal to fix someone's issues? Okay. The longer they've been sick overall, the longer that these problems have been around, the more problems that are present. So like if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conditions present, so the longer the condition's been there, or conditions, the more conditions that are present, the more intense the conditions, that would just indicate like there's deeper levels of toxicity. And then the next one is generally the more female somebody is by birth, and then the older somebody is. These things tend to point towards a longer recovery time. Okay. Women are just slower at it than men. One of the ways that we can see that women kind of don't deal with toxicity as well as women's gallbladders go bad from their toxic bile. And you had your gallbladder removed. So when you've had your gallbladder removed, remember, so your liver's right here. Let's just say this. It makes bile. It goes down into the gallbladder. The gallbladder starts storing it up because your body wants to dump the bile with food. The food helps protect you from the food. The bile helps with some of the digestion part of it, but also the poop holds the bile. Think of how much of the bile is trapped inside of the poop, that it's not touching your intestines. It's to protect you. The gallbladder is dumping all that bile with the food so that most of the bile, like probably 99% of it, is inside of the poop itself. This is my international symbol of poop. So, if you don't have a gallbladder, you can't do the big squeeze and bile dump all at once. Your liver's just gonna, so there's no gallbladder. Your liver's just making a trickle of bile all day. It's just drip, like a dripping sink. It's just drip, 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 drip. As opposed to, let's say you had a dripping sink of the liver making bile, but it dripped into a sink that had a plug in it. It would eventually fill up the sink. I've likened this to being able to wash dishes. Like, would you rather try to wash dishes with a dripping sink or plug the sink to fill it up with water, and then you can wash the dishes in the water? So pale poop with occasional orange diarrhea. Is the orange diarrhea happening? Is it happening more with time? Are you getting more episodes of the orange diarrhea over time? Oh, and Joe mentioned he had liver cramps. Joe says he's had fewer cramps since restricting vitamin A. I understand it better, and I relax and I let it squeeze itself. I used to stretch my body so the cramp would stop. Okay. So you're saying very seldom. Okay. So pale poop would tend to mean intrahepatic cholestasis. This means that the bile is not generally making it down to your intestines. It's going straight from the liver into the blood. So this is intrahepatic. So we have an undertype, which is, you guys have heard me say it before, undertypes are going to take longer to get better. We have likely intrahepatic cholestasis because the poop is generally pale. Sometimes it's orange. The orange would be, so here's one thing you can watch for, Aniline, oh gosh, is watch for what did you do in the day, like the 24 hours before or even 48 hours before the orange poop. So look at what you did so you can do more of that, right? This is the detective work that each person has to do. And this is why I say I don't, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying this is why I don't want it sounds like you're willing to do this. You're paying a lot of attention to your health. So you're doing it and you're asking me questions right now. And this is how we crack the case, right? But this is why I tell people, don't send people to me who aren't willing to do the work and like watch how they respond to things. So I would say watch. So when you have an orange poop, if you're when you eat more fiber, okay, but does more fiber make you feel worse in certain ways? That would be an important question, because dumping more bile could help you poop better, but it could also make you feel more symptoms, which I've explained before, but I can explain again. Yes. So, okay. So you get more symptoms. Okay. So remember, so with the gallbladder gone, any of you out there who don't have your gallbladder anymore, think of the trickle of bile. So it's not the big dump like the gallbladder, but it's a trickle. You want to try to match the trickle of bile with your eating style or your fiber style or your, just basically when you don't have your gallbladder, it will help you to have less of these episodes if you space out. The more frequent and the smaller your fiber doses are, your meals are, the more you spread out any supplements you're doing, the more you spread it out, the more it matches the trickle of the bile. Does that make sense? Whereas like People who still have their gallbladder, they can do, the 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, whatever. They can do that because they can dump all that bile at once. But you want to have your food and your fiber matching your bile output. Okay. So smaller doses, more frequent. Over time, hopefully this will go away, but that's how long that's one of the things you can do, because it'll mean less fat at once, which will trigger less of the issues. Less soluble fiber at a specific time will cause less of the bile, but you might be able to get in, by spacing it out, you might be able to get in more soluble fiber in a day overall without triggering the increase in symptoms that might come from doing it too much at once. Now, I would say that in terms of meat intake, so soluble fiber is helping with the orange poops. Meat intake is seeming to cause the liver pain or gallbladder pain or whatever it is, wherever it's coming from. I mean, you don't have a gallbladder, so it's not coming from the gallbladder, but you know what I mean. From the lack of a gallbladder. With undertypes, I talk about this in the program. Undertypes may need more added fats at the start to maintain your weight. And this is just a matter of people getting calories. Like the quickest way to not being around anymore would be to not get enough calories. So we want to make sure you get enough calories. And you may have to do that with some fat at the start. Try the different types of fibers. Can work differently in terms of triggering that stuff. So you could look into pectin. You could look into psyllium. I think you mentioned oats and maybe some beans. I don't remember. But you've got the basics, but sometimes people do better with like the supplement fibers. Maybe they eat lower fiber foods, but then they add the supplemental fibers, because then you've got, Vasil, Ray Pete is not the GOAT on thyroid. I get people off thyroid meds. People go on more and more thyroid over time. I wish it weren't so. I wish I didn't get people who finally realized that they weren't getting anywhere with Pete. It's not just vitamin A he's wrong on. I'm still waiting for the studies to come out showing that white sugar is good for people. But anyway, so I'm not going to get into that too much today. I'm trying to make this a place for ex-Peters to come and fix themselves, possibly like yourself. But you got to let go of some of those ideas of most of the ideas of Ray Pete. Ray Pete is kind of, in my opinion, he's like a broken clock. He was right twice a day. The rest of the time, the clock is wrong. So that's my opinion. So let's go. Where were we going? Yeah, Ray Pete pushing progesterone and Progest-E, and well, he didn't push Progest-E or whatever, but the people pushing Progest-E and all that stuff, just vitamin E can store up to 20 times more vitamin A in your liver. And progesterone toxicity is a legit thing. So again, just more toxins getting stored. Let's see, where was I? So about the gallbladder, the trickle, matching that with the with your eating habits, your fiber habits. I would try to find the amount of meat that doesn't cause the issue. That might be none at the start. And some of you may be out there going, oh my gosh, Dr. Smith said for this one person, this is why we do the office hours. If y'all don't understand why I do the office hours, so I can troubleshoot people's individual stuff. If there was somebody out there, there are some people out there who might do this process as a vegan. I'm not dogmatic about it. Could they do that? Sure. If they told me, like, I've tried meat, I've tried all different types of meat, bunch of times, I just never feel good on it, I'd be like, okay, then don't eat it. Really, now you have a protein goal that you need to hit of the minimum total protein from all sources. 50 grams a day, absolute minimum. from all sources. You guys may not believe this, but there's meat eaters out there that don't even get that much. When you start working with enough people, and particularly women who eat small portions, sometimes you see that they're hardly eating any protein at all. And they'll be like, but I eat meat every day, but they're eating this teeny little piece of it. And they're not getting enough protein, especially the older ladies. So if you've never totaled up your total grams of protein a day, you should, so you can figure out how much you're actually eating. Because if you're not eating enough, protein is critical to detox. I remember being taught in naturopathic medical school. I didn't learn most of this detox stuff in naturopathic medical school, but I remember teachers saying after 3 days of fasting, your liver has basically run out of the specific amino acids you need to run detox well. So after 3 days, they said your liver is out of certain amino acids that you need to detox. Fasting, by the time you're not pooping much, you're not eating, you're not pooping, you're out of the amino acids your liver needs to run detox, you're not doing much other than, you're just living off some tissue that's in there, okay? I'm not totally against fasting, but I do not think it is the be-all, end-all of fixing health. The reason why people feel better on fasting is because they stop dumping bile, because they're not eating. So you stop dumping bile, means bile doesn't leak into your bloodstream. It means the symptoms you had from the bile leaking into your bloodstream get better or go away. And then what happens is you start eating again, and your liver just starts dumping bile again, and all your symptoms come back. How many of you have known people who fast and they go, oh my gosh, I feel so much better while I'm fasting? And then they go back to their normal diet and all the stuff comes back. It didn't leave. Fasting is like, yes, you are not. What's good about fasting? You're not putting in toxins. Great. You have like a 0 toxin intake from your cake hole. But you're also not pooping. And you're running out of the materials your body needs to help you not only poop, but to run the liver's detox. So generally, I would say if you wanted to fast, I would probably keep it to 3 days if one wanted to fast. Nothing wrong with fasting for a day, like 24 hours. Just remember, a 24-hour fast means from you eat dinner and then you don't eat again until the next dinner. It's not you eat dinner and then you wait until the next day's breakfast, because that's more like a 36-hour fast. But it's not. I've seen lots of people over the years. You guys may have done this. You may have known people who did it. Like they try to do the fast 1 day a week and they do it for a certain amount of time. And then all of a sudden they're like, they're getting too skinny. Like they're getting unhealthy underweight. And then they go, I just can't do this. Like it's reduced their calorie intake too much. And then they can't hold on good weight. There was some big fasting guru we went over here who was like, I'm done with fasting, because he was losing too much weight. He couldn't keep up his calorie intake in his normal days. And this happens to people with intermittent fasting. I'm not against them completely. I'm going to keep saying that. What do Americans do a lot of? More is better. And they do too much. I mean, what would be the most powerful thing you could do in your diet? Powerful as in good, for better or worse. Don't eat. Powerful for better or worse. Don't eat. If you believe in the breatharianism, I mean, you're on the wrong channel. You can go somewhere else and eat your air and stare at the sun. You can go somewhere else. I'm not saying if you want to look at the sun, look at it with your eyes closed. And you can make vitamin D through your eye. Don't stare at the sun with your eyes open. So, Will was saying his uncle fasts for 7 days at a time and loses maybe 3 pounds total. I used to work in the weight loss field. In the dark days, I actually helped people with the HCG diet. I should say helped with big quotes around it. I learned a lot from doing the wrong things. And what we see with diets, with almost any diet that's really low calories, and fasting would be like the lowest calorie diet. The first time people lose tons of weight, they think it's great. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they go on the internet and they say, this is the best way to do it. Whether it's keto, whether it's fasting, whether it's veganism, whatever. This is it. Oh, like the light opens up. I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And then they go back to normal and their problems come back. And then they try the diet again. And they only lose about half as much as they did the first time. They're well, this is not working as well. I don't know why. I'm doing all the things the same. And then they stop and they gain the weight back and probably gain back some more. Because why? Because they're more toxic and they're more nutrient deficient. And they've probably damaged their liver. And then they do it the third time. And then they're like, just like Will said, well, I only lost like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pounds after like a month of hardcore dieting. What's going on? You're shutting down your thyroid and you're getting more toxic and more deficient because you're not getting enough stuff to run the system. But your body will, why would your body keep body fat in a state of overweightness? Because the fat is too full of toxins, and digesting all that fat and freeing all the stuff that is stored in the fat soluble toxins in the fat, dumping that all out at once would kill you. But what about all that weight loss you had before? What did that do? That dumped out toxins from the fat, which then got stored other places and more concentrated. It didn't necessarily leave because you aren't eating. You're not pooping. It gets stored other places. Other places get more concentrated. Then you go back to eating normal, eating your toxins again. You put more toxins in the system. And then all of a sudden your body says, we can't get rid of any of this fat. We've already concentrated enough. We got to keep this fat and maybe get fatter to store all this toxicity. So yes, I made big mistakes in my past. That's how I'm here. I'm okay with admitting it. I used to give people 30,000 units of vitamin A day, supplement wise. Up to. Based on their hair calcium. And would it work short term? Yes. It would work to change the symptom of high calcium on their hair test. It did not fix the root cause. So yes. Sometimes I tell people this, that naturopathic medical school just helped me develop my BS filter. I probably would have had the good BS filter anyway, but naturopathic medical school accelerated it. It's a very expensive BS filter. I don't know if I'd do it again. So, okay. But yeah, I would just, so aniline, I would just stick with it. So the big things, the big takeaways from this would be try to match your eating schedule, try to make your eating schedule, your fiber schedule, your meat schedule, whatever you're doing, your supplement schedule, try to space it out as much as you can. More frequency, smaller doses. Okay. Meat intake. Do what you need to do now. Meat intake and fat intake and fiber intake. Do what you need to do now so you get the most benefit with the least aggravation of symptoms. So for you right now, this may be less meat. It might even be no meat or meat only every other day or whatever you do to space it out. Over time, as you get less toxic, you may be able to take more. Could it be, oh, well, I might as well bring this up. If you haven't seen my other episodes on Wardy's stuff, where Wardy is super copper toxic, and she actually had to go down to eating egg whites for a while to get the lowest amount of potential copper in her protein sources. So if you wanted to try that for a little while, you can. Now, most of the people go, but egg whites and sulfur. Starvation is, we don't want that. We do want people to have enough protein. So if people are down to just egg whites for a while, and what happened to Wardy, she was doing it. She listened to her body, and then she started reintroducing white meat chicken, and then she was able to reintroduce dark meat chicken, and then she was able to reintroduce some meat, a little bit of meat, a couple times a week, I think is what she's up to. So we had to back off for her to get through whatever that was, and then we brought her back. She came to office hours. She talked to me about it. We went through it. So you may want to, Annaline, you may want to contact Wardy on the network, Wardy Harmon, and see if some of her approaches. Wardy's kept track of all the approaches we did with her better, and the things that she tried better than I could because she lived it. So, but you do want to make sure you're getting enough protein. So yeah, with the fiber, space it out as best you can. Like I said, you may be able to get to a higher amount per day total the more you space it out. Experiment with the different types of protein. Experiment with the different types of soluble fiber, whether that's supplement or food. The B12, just make sure that the B12 you're trying to do is the minimal effective dose. So you're trying to find the minimum dose of the B12 that gives you the most benefit. The MTHFR, the methylation genetics, nicotinic acid, getting enough flesh niacin, nicotinic acid will tend to fix most methylation problems. I think Kelsey was telling me that the whole MTHFR thing was really initially researched by Merck. I think if she said that correctly, by pharma. The MTHFR comes straight to you from pharma. So yeah, the whole methylation idea is absolutely a pharma idea. But nicotinic acid, like I used to be what they consider an undermethylator. I used to flush super hard. Oh, your blood is high on B12. Okay. So yeah, let me get to that. You're not taking B12, but the blood is high. That's something I have seen. But your zinc is high, is that right? But you're not taking it? So your zinc was high, but I'm just wondering if you were taking it. She's probably typing right now. So there is a possibility, I think, with high B12. Oh, you're not taking zinc. Okay, so you got high zinc and you got high B12 and you're not taking them. So these are what the zinc I would tend to say is probably a loss pattern, or it's not getting into your liver very well. I'm just going to throw out things. You don't have to answer every one of these. Zinc is typically, so you were taking it before you got sick. Okay. Well, I would definitely, if you want to try into this stuff, Annaline, I would think about what we talked about today. All the things about it. Could be too much fiber. It could be like, we have some people, honestly, on the program, I know we talk about soluble fiber, but we have some people who do like almost none. And then over time, they get better. And then they're able to take more soluble fiber. So just watch what some people get along with zinc supplements. Some people don't. Some people get along with molybdenum supplements and some people don't. Selenium is most people get along with it. And there's very few reactions, but generally, if you're going to experiment with selenium and molybdenum and zinc, it goes in that order. Selenium first, because it's the least likely to cause problems. Molybdenum second, and then zinc third. Why? What's a possible connection? Well, selenium's dosed in micrograms, molybdenum's dosed in micrograms, zinc is in milligrams. So just in terms of the amounts, selenium, molybdenum, zinc. And I would get drops. I think we use the Iodine, EIDON molybdenum drops when people need to use that. The selenium drops is the Triquetra, TRIQUETRA. And the zinc drops, we make the zinc drops, 2 milligram per drop zinc drops, if you decide you want to try that. But we talked about potentially the lower copper The zinc being high, I would tend to suspect that there's some copper issues underneath that. I mean, you said vitamin A was high too. So if you got that much vitamin A toxicity as a female, and what I mean by that is the research says that men's vitamin A is typically higher than women's. So that means just as when we start to see women with high vitamin A, that's significant. It's going to be affecting them more than it would a man at the same number. So just trying to think of what else that I might have missed. Again, first thing, make sure for anyone who is in the Love Your Liver program, go back to the order of adding stuff article. The order of adding stuff, and Zen Dog Breath, or Joe New, who wrote that big testimonial at the start, he says constantly that he goes back to the order of adding stuff article and starts at the top and goes through and have I addressed these things, and he gets down to the bottom. He'll address things at a step. I'm going to try this again. He'll try it again, and then he'll move down, and then he'll try the next thing, and then he'll decide the next thing he wants to try, and then he just comes back around to the very start, and he just starts looking at things again to reassess and to be like, how is this going? Should I do this again? Do I think I need to do this again? Might I try this again? You might have a supplement around in your supplement graveyard, right? We still have supplement graveyards around here. Like, let's say somebody on the program tries one of the probiotics. They try a lactobacillus, or they try a bifido, and they're not sure. Maybe they didn't notice anything from it at the time, so they set them aside, keep them in the fridge, keep probiotics in the fridge generally, even if they say they don't need it. Don't keep them in your bathroom with the hot shower and the humidity and that stuff. Keep them in your fridge. They may not need refrigeration, but if you're not going to use them, keep them in the fridge. Okay. But just know that even dead probiotics have shown benefits in studies where they killed the probiotics, they broke them up, they broke up the cell walls, they sent them in, and they still did help. It's like a signal. I think of the dead probiotics would be like, okay, so like in the warrior movies where they have like they put the heads on pikes, right? They put the tall spear sticking up, and they put their enemies' heads on it. It's like, if you go into that area, you're like, oh crap, something's going on. Like, there's going to be a fight. Well, if you think about it, if you send dead probiotics down into your gut, it's a signal that there may be something coming behind it, right? So anyway, that's just a thought on it. But the adrenal fatigue guy, he actually sells a probiotic it's not a probiotic, it's a broken cell wall probiotic. Like, it's a dead probiotic. They actually sell it that way on purpose. So, I hope I covered that. I hope we got that, Annaline. I hope you got something out of that. I would just be patient, listen to your body, work on those suggestions as you can, and just know that, like, if you're an undertype, you're severely underweight, you got these things going on, like, it's gonna be a while. I wish it wasn't true. I wish we could make this go faster. I would definitely look into the nicotinic acid, the flush niacin, figuring out, even if you're taking just a couple little grains of it, if you can tolerate that, or maybe doing it topically. For those of you out there, topical minerals work well for some people when they can't take them orally. Yeah. Let me just add something to the chat. I'm not going to say any specific names, but we get lots of people in the program who think that, or maybe they got results from pushing really hard. Okay. Let's say they jump in, and I had one guy tell me, he was like, I tried the little doses of lactoferrin, and I was kind of getting these reactions. I wasn't feeling good on it. So then they decided, I'm just going to take a whole pill. And they were like, and all of a sudden I broke through and I felt so much better. Okay. Had some people who really push soluble fiber really hard in the beginning. I did it once. And then eventually they realized that this is making them feel worse. If one has ever worked with enough people, you realize that there are some people where pushing hard, usually you want to let people push hard on their own. Let them push hard on their own. If they kick their own ass, hopefully they realize it. If they break through and it works well for them, great. The problem with people who don't work with a lot of people, especially individuals, is that they tend to think that everyone in the world will react the same way they do. That is the biggest mistake that people make. Functional medicine doctors do it all the time. Like an example, my mom, when she was before I was doing all of this, she went to her doctor and the doctors always wanted to put her on statins because her total cholesterol was probably up around like 280. And she'd tell the doctor, I can't take those. My legs hurt the same day I start taking them. And you know what the doctor said? That can't be true. It takes at least 2 weeks for those symptoms to show up. So he's saying he understands the side effect, but it just can't be true that my mom experienced it different than what everybody else should. I have seen lots of people in my time, and I'm very good at pattern recognition. And the mistake that I used to make, and that a lot of people make in the health world, is they think that everything comes down to one cause, and that everybody or that everybody should do exactly the same approach that helped them. Nothing could be further from the truth. Remember, we're all, like, the analogy I use is like we're all cars of different types. We're all internal combustion cars. Some of us are semi-trucks. Some of us are sports cars. Some of us are 4x4s. Some of us are little economy cars. They all have the same basic setup, but some of them need more oil. Some of them need more gas or less gas. Some of them have very fancy imported parts that are hard to get, and they need it and other cars don't. So when we start thinking of things in that manner, like, does every car need gasoline? Yes. But when people say, how much of this supplement should I take? It's not that easy. That's why you don't see me just saying, everybody take 30 milligrams of zinc. Or somebody on the internet was like, everybody should take 100 milligrams. Every man, I saw this on Twitter, every man should take 100 milligrams of zinc a day. That was just bonkers. We've had multiple people in the program who started out real hard and heavy on the zinc. And I said, that's going to end and you're not going to like it. And they found out the hard way that I was right again. If you push really hard on the gas pedal, it's much more easy to overshoot the turn and go off the cliff or into the wall. That's just the nature of driving fast. You're going to hit things harder if and when you lose control. I get some of the most sensitive people out there. There's other doctors out there who work with sensitive people like I do, and they make them live in these like aseptic places, and they're doing all sorts of IVs on them, and they're doing all this other stuff. And I'm fixing them in their own homes. Well, they're fixing themselves doing with my guidance. You cannot take really sensitive people and just give everybody the same mega dose protocol. And it's nothing, if what the way you want to think of it is, and I like, for those of you who are in the Love Your Liver program, if you're going to make comments in the Love Your Liver program, here's the way I really like people to preface it, to put at the start of it. Here's what worked for me. Not, you should do exactly what I did. Do you see how those are different? Like, these are small changes in the way things are put, where the person may be like, oh, well, they might be like, well, did you have the person posts, here's what worked for me. I reacted badly to this, this, and this. And I reacted well to this, this, and this. And the person reading it might go, wow, that's like the same pattern that I have. Or they might look at it and go, that doesn't sound like me at all. So I don't want to do that. Or maybe I'll try it and I'll very quickly be watching out for, is it not working? If it's working, great. If it's not working, then you already know that, well, this wasn't really my pattern. Like I say with underweight people are generally very, very sensitive. It's probably, why do I think underweight people take longer to fix and are generally very, very sensitive? I believe they have more intrahepatic cholestasis, which means the bile that they make is directly being leaked into their bloodstream. It's not even making it into the bile ducts. This would be the pale poop. They don't have bilirubin in their poop. It's going into their blood, causing them symptoms. But like as Annaline was saying, when she takes a lot of fiber, she gets orange poops, but her symptoms go up. Her liver made and dumped more bile. More of it leaked into her bloodstream, so she got more symptoms. But she also got more bile into her poop, which helped her poop, but it also made it orange. So then we get to go on the orange color, like orange juice, right? We get to go, is the juice worth the squeeze? Are the improvements you're getting in pooping worth the symptoms that you are aggravating? Only the person can decide that. But if she sees that as she does more fiber, she gets more and more symptoms and she's more and more uncomfortable, that's not going to be something that's just broken through. This is a very damaged liver. The bile is what's doing the damage. So if you push bile production too hard, you're going to dissolve you're going to make more holes. That's more symptoms. She's leaking more bile, and the bile is what dissolves the holes. So dumping more bile, causing more symptoms, but getting better poops out of it probably just needs more time. So just beware of pushing too hard. I talk about this over and over. I mean, how many of the testimonials today are me saying to people, chill out, calm down, take time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a poison on the way in, but it's also a poison on the way out. So if you dump it too fast, you're going to feel bad. So be kind to yourself. We're undoing decades of toxicity here. Miss Jemima Puddle Duck said chilling out is underrated. It is. If you're feeling better over time and you're not getting, the detox dumping cycles, or what Grant's group calls the detox setback, it's not a setback. If you're dumping more bile and you feel bad, you're getting rid of more toxicity because it's coming out probably in your poop, just like Annaline said, but it's also going into your bloodstream, which means it's coming out your kidneys. But if you're getting skin problems, it's also coming out your skin. If you're getting earwax, it's coming out your ears. If you got sinus problems, it's coming out your nose. If you got sleep in your eyes, it's coming out through your sleep. Guys will notice, you guys can make comments on this, but this is something I have observed in myself and other guys have commented on. Guys will even notice that their ejaculate is yellow. And over time on the detox, it goes back to white. You're getting rid of it there too. It's possible that guys who, do too much of this kind of like compulsively are trying to detox that way. You got yellow sweat stains on your bed. You got yellow sweat stains on your shirt. You're detoxing that way. But if it's in your blood, if you're putting more toxic bile and all the things it contains into your blood, you're going to feel worse. You have potentially decades worth of toxins in your liver. Like let's say we had a young man who has health problems. Young men are going to be they're going to make the most bile, which means they have the potential to detox the fastest. And they just may be able to push harder on everything. Okay. And so they get through it faster. That does not mean that what they think worked for them is going to work for a 70-year-old woman. See the difference? 20-something man, 70-something-year-old woman, 50 years of toxin accumulation more. And then you have women generally go slower. They don't make as much bile. It's like in the gym, the trainer, the 20-something-year-old trainer trying to make a 70-year-old woman do the workout he does so she can get the results that he has. It doesn't work. This is why we tweak things as we do in the office hours for those people who are working with myself or Nathan. So, and for those of you who don't know, if you do a consult with Nathan, you can get access to my office hours sessions. So, yeah. So I didn't see, Joe, were there any more? Oh, Zen Dog's here. Yeah, Zen Dog, we did your testimonial today. Good job. Good job. Nice work. So let me see. I think we're all done. I got to get to, no more. Okay, cool. Just remember, listen to your body. But it's okay. So here's the big, let me just go over this one last thing. When I say listen to your body, I especially mean listen to the things that make you feel bad. Do less of those. It seems so simple that it's like dumb, right? Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that. But don't fall prey to some of the egg cells and other people on the internet that are haters are like, but I feel good when I eat liver. Crackheads feel good when they smoke crack. So? Coffee addicts feel good when they drink their coffee. So? Go snort a line of Coke. Maybe you'll feel amazing. We don't use that. Feeling good short term is nothing. Not nothing, but it's not much. Especially if you know you're taking in a toxin to feel good short term. Feeling better long term is what we're after. So let's just say, well, caffeine's a toxin, a pesticide from plants. It gives people more energy. Cocaine is a toxin derived from plants, gives people more energy. Like, how many other toxins can we go through? What they used to use, what was it? Strychnine in the Tour de France riders, because it made their muscles contract harder. So you could kind of think of it as a stimulant in a way. That's toxic. So toxins often have stimulant effects. So somebody's saying they feel more energy when they eat liver. Copper is a toxic stimulant. And they're like, eat liver because it has lots of copper and you'll feel more energy. Yeah, it's got lots of toxic copper and lots of toxins are stimulants. When we know what's kind of good for you and you feel better, let's say you eat a banana and you're like, wow, I feel less anxious. I'm less depressed. I have better energy. We know what did it. And you need potassium. It's an essential nutrient. If you're like, well, I drank 4 cups of coffee and I have lots of energy. Well, you took in a bunch of toxins that are stimulating. It's not an essential nutrient you got from caffeine or coffee. So I think that's about all I'm going to have today. I'm a little tired. If you can tell, my eyes might look a little tired because while I was on my trip, I don't sleep well on trips. It's kind of normal. It's kind of a dad thing. Got to stay awake to protect the pack kind of thing. So you don't get to sleep well when you go to new places. If you haven't seen that, that's actually in the research. When you sleep in a new place, especially men, we make less melatonin, so we don't get to sleep as well. Why is that? This is evolutionary biology. Why would you not sleep well in a new place? Especially the man of the family. Because you need to be awake in a new, dangerous place in case somebody's trying to come and tear out all your throats. It's very simple. It makes sense. So I just know personally that if I'm going to go to a new place, I'm not going to sleep well. I just have to accept it. And was the not sleeping well worth the trip? Absolutely. Yes, it was. So we are not going 5 hours today, Joe. I'm sorry. Yeah. Nate asked, are coffee enemas okay? I've been over coffee enemas before. How do they work? It's basically a diarrhea flush of some bile. I've been over this before. If you want to come, Nate, maybe on a future one, or you might search. I don't know. Do any of you guys know how to search? Like as a person, like I know how to search my channel. I can go to the studio.youtube.com and search my videos for key terms. But let me see. Anyway, I'll have a look at the chat after this. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up here. So hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all for the super chats. I got to all of them, I believe. Yes. And yeah, if you want to find any links from me down at the bottom, make sure to like and subscribe and comment and do all that stuff. Even if you're commenting an emoji, it helps. So we'll see you all next time, and I will talk to you later. Have a great week. Bye now. Oh, we got the applause.